Imagine a land stretched across deserts, mountains, and lush river valleys, where the sun paints the skies with golden hues, and the wind carries whispers of ancient tales. This is Persia, a civilization of extraordinary depth, where every hill, river, and stone has borne witness to stories that have traveled through millennia. In this land, imagination and reality intertwine, and the line between the human world and the world of spirits and monsters seems almost invisible. Tonight, as you settle into a comfortable place, allow yourself to drift gently into the echoes of these old stories, where terrifying monsters were more than just figures of fear, they were reflections of human courage, wisdom, and the mysteries of existence itself. Persian mythology is a vast tapestry, woven with tales of gods, heroes, and creatures whose forms often defy reason. From multi-headed serpents to shape-shifting demons, these monsters inhabited a universe where every shadow could conceal a secret and every roar could herald a challenge to the brave. Yet, there is a strange calm in these stories, an underlying rhythm that tells us even in fear, there is beauty, and even in chaos, there is order. As we begin this journey together, picture yourself walking through ancient cities with marble columns that glimmer in the early morning light, through marketplaces alive with the scent of spices, and along silent desert paths where the sand shifts like the passage of time itself. In this exploration, we are not merely recounting tales of terror. Instead, we are allowing these stories to unfold slowly, like a gentle stream, carrying you through a world where monsters are not just obstacles but teachers. They reveal the strengths and vulnerabilities of those who face them, and they show us the boundaries between the mortal world and forces beyond comprehension. Each creature has a story, and each story has a purpose, whether to warn, to instruct, or to explain the mysteries of nature and human emotion. The monsters you will meet are terrifying, yes, but they are also fascinating, their legends infused with artistry, philosophy, and the subtle poetry of fear. As we wander through the landscapes of myth, imagine the mountains standing tall and silent, their peaks cloaked in mist, guarding secrets known only to the wind. Picture deserts that stretch endlessly, their sands shimmering under the moonlight, where unseen eyes may be watching from shadows. Hear the distant roar of a creature whose presence is felt more than seen, a reminder that fear in Persian mythology is as much about imagination as it is about reality. And yet, there is comfort in this darkness because these monsters, as fearsome as they are, follow patterns, obey the laws of their stories, and ultimately provide a framework for understanding the human experience. Tonight, you are not simply a listener, you are a traveler. You are walking alongside heroes who have faced creatures with scales of iron and eyes that pierce the soul. You are observing beings that haunt rivers, mountains, and even the heavens, each one imbued with lessons that have endured for centuries. Let yourself feel the weight of history and the thrill of encountering something extraordinary, while keeping a sense of gentle serenity. The rhythm of these stories is deliberate, measured, designed to lull the mind as much as it captivates it, guiding you slowly into a state where curiosity, imagination, and relaxation coexist. Even the most terrifying monsters in Persian mythology are not evil without purpose. They challenge mortals, test their wisdom, and reveal the balance between courage and caution. In these tales, darkness is never absolute, and the light of knowledge, courage, or cleverness can shine even in the deepest shadows. It is this delicate interplay that makes these stories so enduring, and so suitable for a calming journey before sleep. You may find yourself marveling at the intricate designs of mythical serpents, or feeling a quiet thrill as a hero approaches a cavern where a creature waits, unseen but sensed. All of this is experienced at a pace that soothes rather than startles, letting the imagination wander freely without tension or urgency. So, as you settle further into comfort, allow the imagination to open to these ancient lands and beings. Picture the flicker of lanterns in silent courtyards, the rustle of leaves in sacred gardens, and the distant echo of footsteps along stone corridors. The stories that follow will introduce monsters who are both terrifying and strangely beautiful, their legends intertwined with human struggles and the mysteries of the natural and supernatural worlds. They invite you to explore, to wonder, and to reflect, all while your body relaxes and your mind drifts gently toward a state of calm awareness. Tonight, you are invited into a rhythm of storytelling that is slow, deliberate, and immersive. The monsters are real within their own worlds, yet entirely safe in ours. Each tale will draw you a little deeper into the landscapes of ancient Persia, where imagination and history merge seamlessly. And as you listen, let the sound of these words be like a soft current, guiding you across mountains, deserts, and rivers, past shadows and whispers, toward a place where knowledge, wonder, and a gentle sense of awe linger, preparing you for the quiet journey of sleep ahead. In this way, the stories of Persia's terrifying monsters are not merely frightening, they are companions in the night, guides through imagination, and a testament to the enduring power of myth. Let your mind wander freely, let your senses absorb the textures and colors of this ancient world, and let the calm cadence of these tales carry you gently forward. By the end of this journey, you may not only have met fearsome monsters, but also glimpse the timeless wisdom woven into their legends, all while embracing the serenity that comes from surrendering to a story told slowly, deliberately, and with care.
Monsters in Persian mythology are far more than mere figures of terror. They are living symbols, mirrors reflecting human fears, desires, and the mysteries of the world. Each creature, whether it slithers across mountain paths or emerges from shadowed waters, embodies a lesson, a warning, or a truth about the delicate balance between chaos and order. As we continue this journey through the myths of Persia, it is important to understand not just what these monsters look like, but why they exist within these stories. They are the embodiments of struggles that humans have faced since time immemorial, struggles with nature, with other humans, with fate, and with the unknown forces that shape life. In this way, every encounter with a monster is more than an encounter with fear, it is an encounter with understanding. Take, for instance, the legendary Divs, often depicted as dark, demonic beings. They are chaotic, unpredictable, and powerful, yet their stories were not told to incite panic. Instead, they served as reminders of moral and ethical boundaries. A div might represent greed, deception, or uncontrolled desire, warning listeners that these qualities, if left unchecked, could grow into destructive forces. The tales allow one to confront these aspects safely, imagining the battle between hero and monster in a way that illuminates human nature. This duality, the terror of the monster paired with the guidance it offers, is central to understanding Persian mythology, and it is what gives these stories their enduring appeal. Similarly, serpentine monsters like Azhdaha, with their multiple heads and fearsome power, are not merely creatures to be vanquished. They symbolize the chaos and destructive potential that exist both in the natural world and within human hearts. Heroes who confront these monsters are often praised not merely for their strength, but for their courage, wisdom, and moral integrity. Each tale is a delicate dance between fear and knowledge, darkness and light, illustrating that monsters exist not only outside of humanity but also within it. In the soft cadence of storytelling, these lessons become gentle truths, absorbed naturally as the mind drifts into imagination and reflection. The purpose of monsters in Persian myths also extends to the explanation of natural phenomena. Rivers that flood suddenly, mountains that crumble, storms that appear without warning. Ancient peoples often turn to mythical creatures to give meaning to these events. A monstrous presence, unseen yet powerful, becomes a narrative thread connecting the chaos of the world with human experience. In listening to these stories today, we can appreciate the thoughtful ways in which imagination helped early civilizations understand their environment. There is a comforting rhythm in these tales. While the monsters are terrifying, they are predictable within the stories, and their actions serve a purpose, transforming fear into knowledge. Furthermore, monsters in these myths often embody the unknown, that which exists at the edges of perception. They live in the mountains, deserts, rivers, or the very night itself, places where ordinary humans rarely tread. In this way, they represent the mysteries of life, the elements of existence that remain just out of reach. Hearing stories of these beings allows us to explore the unknown safely, to confront uncertainty through narrative, and to imagine ourselves navigating dangers with wisdom and courage. The very act of imagining these monsters, of picturing their scales, wings, or fiery breath, becomes a gentle exercise in empathy, creativity, and introspection. It is also worth noting that monsters in Persian mythology are rarely static. Their appearances, abilities, and behaviors often change depending on the story, the storyteller, and the lesson being conveyed. This fluidity gives the narratives a sense of life, reminding listeners that the world, even within myth, is dynamic and ever-changing. A monster might be terrifying in one tale and cunning in another, or it may demand both strategy and bravery to defeat. By following these shifting portrayals, the mind learns to expect variation, to embrace the unknown, and to find calm in adaptability, a perfect lesson for quiet reflection before sleep. In addition to representing moral, natural, and existential forces, these monsters often act as catalysts for heroism. Without monsters, there are no stories of courage, cleverness, or endurance. Each tale subtly encourages the listener to recognize the capacity for resilience within themselves. While the narratives are filled with fearsome encounters, they are also filled with triumph, resourcefulness, and the quiet strength that comes from facing challenges. Listening to these stories in a calm, relaxed state allows the imagination to follow the heroes, feeling their fear and their courage simultaneously, without the tension that might keep the mind alert. Finally, understanding the role of monsters in Persian mythology enhances the immersive experience of these legends. As we continue to explore the individual creatures, the serpents, the divs, the shapeshifters, and the cosmic beings, it is important to remember that they are threads in a larger tapestry. Each monster, each story, contributes to a complex and beautifully woven narrative that combines fear, wonder, wisdom, and the rhythm of life itself. By appreciating this purpose, we can listen not only to the tales of terror but also to the subtle lessons hidden within them, allowing both the mind and spirit to relax while the imagination roams freely across ancient lands. So, as you settle more comfortably and the soft cadence of these words guides you, remember that monsters in Persian mythology are more than frightening shapes. They are teachers, mirrors, and companions in thought. They invite reflection, wonder, and a gentle exploration of courage and morality. They allow us to confront darkness, not with panic, but with understanding, and to see beauty even in the terrifying. As we move forward into the tales of individual monsters, keep in mind the lessons they carry and the calm, immersive rhythm in which these stories are told, readying yourself for encounters that are as enlightening as they are awe-inspiring.
To truly understand the monsters of Persian mythology, it is helpful to first step gently into the world in which they were imagined, a world as vivid and varied as the tales themselves. Ancient Persia was a land of contrasts, stretching from snow-capped mountains to sun-scorched deserts, from fertile river valleys to expansive plains where the wind carries the scent of wildflowers and dust alike. It was a place where life and death, beauty and terror, often coexisted in quiet harmony, and where every natural feature seemed imbued with meaning. As you close your eyes and listen, picture these landscapes unfolding slowly before you, allowing your mind to wander through mountains shrouded in mist, past rivers that glimmer in the early morning light, and across deserts that stretch into infinity, soft and silent under the stars. The cities of ancient Persia were equally captivating, each one a center of culture, religion, and storytelling. Imagine the bustling marketplaces, where the aroma of spices mingled with the distant sound of music and conversation. Picture palaces with marble columns that glimmer in the sun, gardens where fountains whispered and lilies floated gracefully on the water, and courtyards shaded by the delicate leaves of pomegranate trees. Within these walls, poets, priests, and storytellers would gather to pass down myths from one generation to the next. It is in these places that tales of monsters were told, not simply for fright, but as lessons, as moral and spiritual guides, and as mirrors of human fears and hopes. The gentle rhythm of life in these cities allowed imagination to flourish, providing the perfect soil in which legends could grow. Persian myths often tie the natural world to the supernatural. Mountains were not merely obstacles to traverse, but homes to dragons and serpents whose scales glimmered like precious stones in hidden caves. Rivers were not just bodies of water, but living entities, sometimes protective, sometimes vengeful, concealing monsters beneath their rippling surfaces. Deserts, with their shifting sands and endless horizons, became the domain of spirits that tested the resilience and wisdom of travelers. By picturing these landscapes in your mind, you create a backdrop for the monsters to come, settings that are as immersive and alive as the creatures themselves. These places breathe with mystery and calm, their details allowing the imagination to roam freely while your body relaxes. It is in the quiet valleys and high mountain passes that many of the most feared monsters of Persian mythology were said to dwell. Imagine walking along a narrow trail, the wind brushing against your skin, the distant call of a bird echoing off the cliffs. Suddenly, a shadow moves just beyond the edge of sight, a hint of something powerful, unseen, yet profoundly present. This is the essence of the Persian mythic landscape, the ordinary and the extraordinary existing together. Monsters emerge naturally from these surroundings, not as abrupt horrors, but as part of a living world that feels both familiar and endlessly strange. By imagining these scenes calmly and slowly, the mind becomes fully engaged, ready to encounter creatures whose stories will unfold in measured, relaxing rhythm. Persian mythology also imbues landscapes with symbolism. Mountains can represent strength, permanence, or the trials that one must overcome, while rivers may symbolize life, continuity, or the flow of fate. Deserts, with their vast emptiness, evoke reflection, solitude, and the challenges of endurance. Within this symbolic framework, monsters are not just external threats, they are extensions of the landscape itself, manifestations of natural forces, human emotion, and cosmic principles. As you visualize these settings, you can feel the interplay of calm and tension, danger and beauty, preparing your mind to receive the tales that follow. The interplay between humans and their environment is central to understanding Persian myths. Heroes often traverse these landscapes to seek knowledge, rescue, or redemption, encountering monsters along the way. These journeys are not rushed, they are deliberate, reflective, and deeply immersive. The mountains test the hero's perseverance, the rivers challenge their patience, and the deserts confront their endurance. In the same way, as we journey through these stories tonight, you are invited to move slowly through these spaces, to notice the small details, the flicker of sunlight on a river, the crunch of sand beneath a traveler's feet, the whisper of wind through the trees. These sensory cues help the mind relax while remaining engaged, creating a gentle, dreamlike state in which the stories of monsters can unfold naturally. Beyond physical landscapes, ancient Persia was rich in spiritual and cultural layers. Temples and shrines dotted the land, each one a place of worship, reflection, or protection. People believed that spirits, both benign and malevolent, resided in these sacred places. The monsters of myth often had ties to these spiritual realms, acting as guardians, punishers, or messengers. By understanding the sacred and mystical geography of Persia, we gain insight into the monsters themselves, seeing them not merely as threats but as participants in a complex moral and cosmic order. This perspective adds depth and calm fascination to each story, emphasizing the rhythm and purpose underlying the fear they evoke. In imagining ancient Persia, it is also important to recognize the passage of time. The stories have traveled across centuries, passed down from storyteller to storyteller, evolving with each telling. Mountains have witnessed countless seasons, rivers have flowed through innumerable years, and deserts have shifted silently beneath the sun and stars. Monsters, too, have transformed, their appearances and actions shaped by the imaginations of those who told their tales. By embracing this sense of timelessness, we can listen with a relaxed awareness, letting the stories flow slowly, like a river meandering through its landscape, steady and unhurried. Finally, as you envision this world, allow yourself to feel a connection to both the land and its legends. Picture yourself standing on a quiet hilltop, looking over valleys that stretch into the distance, the air cool and calm. Sense the stillness and the potential, the peace and the anticipation of what may lie just beyond the horizon. This is the world into which we will step as we begin to meet the monsters of Persian mythology. It is a world alive with detail, rich with symbolism, and infused with a gentle tension that invites curiosity rather than alarm. By carrying these images in your mind, you prepare yourself for an immersive journey, where the monsters are not only terrifying but also beautiful, fascinating, and deeply meaningful, perfectly suited to a calm, reflective exploration before sleep. Now, as the landscapes of ancient Persia settle gently in your mind, let us meet one of its most infamous inhabitants, a creature whose name alone carried fear across the valleys and mountains, Azhdaha. Often described as a three-headed serpent with a body armored in scales as hard as iron, Azhdaha was not merely a beast to be feared. It was a symbol of chaos, greed, and the destructive forces that can arise when power is misused. Yet, in the way these stories are told, even a monster so terrifying has a place in the natural and moral order of the world, and its tale is as much about human courage and wisdom as it is about fear. Imagine, if you can, a time long before cities and palaces dotted the landscape, when the forests and mountains were wilder and the rivers ran freer. In these untamed lands, Azhdaha roamed, its three heads constantly moving, each with its own consciousness, whispering cunning schemes and striking terror wherever it went. Legends say its breath could wither crops, and its gaze could strike despair into the hearts of men. Travelers spoke of hearing a distant hissing in the mountains, or seeing the shadows of a massive serpent slithering across the horizon at sunset. And yet, there is a strange beauty in this imagery, the shimmering scales catching the last rays of sun, the rhythmic sway of its immense body, the elegant, terrifying symmetry of three heads moving as one. In this way, the story evokes awe as much as fear, capturing the imagination in a soft, mesmerizing rhythm. Azhdaha's story is intertwined with that of human rulers and heroes. It is said that this monster thrived when greed and corruption flourished in human kingdoms, feeding off cruelty and oppression. Here, the tale gently reminds the listener that the forces represented by monsters are not always external, they are often reflections of human behavior and society. Heroes, wise kings, and even ordinary villagers had roles to play in challenging its influence, whether through courage, cleverness, or acts of justice. In this sense, the monster becomes a mirror, allowing listeners to reflect on morality, the consequences of unchecked power, and the strength required to confront what is terrifying, both in the world and within oneself. In one of the most famous tales, a young hero or king rises to face Azhdaha. Unlike the sudden scares of modern horror, these encounters unfold slowly, with careful strategy and profound understanding. The hero does not charge blindly into battle but observes, learns, and prepares. The story takes the listener through a journey of anticipation, the approach to the monster's lair, the careful steps across misty mountains, the silent tension of the forest where the serpent might already be watching. Every description is deliberate, painting a vivid mental image without startling the imagination, perfect for a calming, reflective storytelling experience. Azhdaha's three heads often symbolize different aspects of chaos and destruction. One head might speak of lies and deceit, another of raw violence, and the third of temptation or greed. This allows the narrative to explore complex moral lessons, presenting challenges that are both external and internal. As the hero confronts the serpent, the story gently guides the listener through the ways in which courage, intelligence, and morality intersect. The monster is terrifying, yes, but it is also a teacher, revealing that fear can be faced without panic, and that wisdom and patience can prevail even in the presence of overwhelming power. There are moments in the story where the creature is described not just in terms of its fearsome traits but also with a strange elegance. Its scales shimmer like dark jewels in the sunlight, its three heads move in perfect, eerie synchronization, and when it coils around a mountain peak, it becomes almost part of the landscape itself. These descriptive passages are slow and deliberate, designed to draw the listener into a vivid, meditative visualization. The mind can picture the curves of its immense body, the faint hiss of its breath, the glint of its eyes, all while the body remains relaxed and calm, ready for the gentle unfolding of the story. Despite the terror Azhdaha inspires, the tales always hint at the possibility of triumph. Heroes are able to find weakness, exploit cunning strategies, or enlist the support of wise allies. These elements create a rhythm in the storytelling. Tension rises as the monster looms, yet there is always the promise of resolution. The narrative, therefore, balances fear and relief, holding the listener in a state of fascination and calm attentiveness. Even as we picture the terror, we know that the story moves toward justice and balance, making it suitable for a reflective, sleepy mind. Azhdaha's influence in Persian mythology extends beyond individual tales. It embodies the idea that monsters are not random or meaningless, they are deeply tied to the human experience, to the ethical, social, and natural order of the world. By exploring this monster's story, listeners are invited to reflect on their own inner fears and the broader forces that shape life. And yet, the telling is gentle, never hurried, allowing the imagination to roam freely while the mind absorbs subtle lessons without alarm. As you continue to visualize the serpent, let the story guide you slowly across its domain, the jagged mountain peaks, the dense forests, and the quiet rivers where it might pause. Feel the rhythm of its movement, the interplay of fear and fascination, the gentle tension of anticipation. In this way, the story becomes a meditative journey, where terror transforms into awe, curiosity, and calm reflection. You are not just hearing a tale, you are walking alongside it, observing, imagining, and slowly understanding the lessons it carries. Finally, as the encounter with Azhdaha draws to a close, there is a lingering sense of calm resolution. The hero may survive, the monster may be restrained, but the story leaves space for imagination to continue exploring the creature's presence. The lesson endures. Fear is not to be avoided but understood, chaos is part of the natural order, and wisdom and courage can prevail even in the most daunting circumstances. By holding this story in the mind, you prepare for the next tales to come, each one weaving terror, beauty, and insight into a calm, immersive journey perfect for reflective listening or drifting gently toward sleep. Now, having met the formidable Azhdaha, we turn our attention to another class of creatures that have haunted the imagination of ancient Persia for centuries, the divs. These beings are often described as malevolent spirits or demons, creatures of fire and chaos that embody mischief, cruelty, and raw power. Yet, as with all Persian monsters, the divs are more than just frightening shapes. They are reflections of human fears and moral lessons designed to both awe and instruct. Their stories are not told to provoke sudden terror but to invite slow, thoughtful immersion, allowing the imagination to explore the boundaries of danger while maintaining a gentle, reflective rhythm. Imagine a vast, barren plain stretching under a crimson sunset. The air shimmers with heat, and the scent of scorched earth mixes with the distant smoke of a hidden fire. From this haze, the divs emerge, sometimes as hulking figures with glowing eyes, sometimes as shadowy shapes that move with uncanny speed. Their presence is both mesmerizing and unsettling, a reminder of the delicate balance between the calm of the natural world and the forces of chaos that can erupt at any moment. The stories describe them as creatures capable of immense destruction, yet they always follow the patterns and rules set by the myths, giving the listener a sense of controlled tension that is perfect for relaxed storytelling. Divs are often associated with fire, not merely as a physical element but as a symbol of both energy and destruction. Their fiery breath could scorch fields, and their eyes could pierce the soul, yet this fire also represents vitality and transformation. In this way, the divs embody duality. They are terrifying, yet they teach, they destroy, yet they illuminate. The ancient Persians used these stories to remind themselves of the importance of balance, the need to respect the forces of nature, and the consequences of allowing greed, anger, or cruelty to flourish unchecked. As you listen, let the imagery of fire flickering across a shadowed landscape settle gently in your mind, creating a rhythm that is both captivating and soothing. These creatures often dwell in remote places, far from human settlements. Picture the jagged cliffs of a distant mountain range, the echo of the wind through deep canyons, and the faint glow of hidden flames flickering across the rocks. Here, the divs make their homes, observing the world with cunning intelligence. Travelers who venture too close might feel an unseen presence or hear distant laughter carried on the wind, a subtle reminder that the world is full of mysteries beyond ordinary perception. In storytelling, these moments of suspense are never sudden or harsh. They are drawn out deliberately, like shadows stretching with the setting sun, giving the mind time to absorb the scene and wander through it calmly. Divs are not merely monsters to be fought with swords or magic. They are challenges that require wisdom, patience, and courage. Ancient tales often describe heroes who must navigate a labyrinth of deceit, temptation, and fiery danger. Sometimes the hero confronts the div directly, using cleverness and strategy rather than brute force. Other times, the story emphasizes avoidance, negotiation, or outsmarting the creature, highlighting the importance of intellect and adaptability. In these narratives, the divs serve as catalysts for human growth, testing the limits of endurance and understanding, while allowing the listener to experience tension in a controlled, relaxing manner. The divs also hold a moral and ethical dimension. They often emerge when humans act unjustly or selfishly, feeding on negativity and imbalance. Their stories remind listeners that actions have consequences and that courage, fairness, and wisdom are necessary to navigate life's challenges. By personifying human fears and moral lessons, these monsters allow us to reflect on our own behavior in a gentle, imaginative way. The narrative does not pressure the listener but invites contemplation, creating a serene atmosphere where one can explore both terror and insight at a comfortable pace. In some tales, the divs are part of cosmic struggles, representing forces of chaos opposing the order of the world. Their actions ripple through the land, affecting rivers, mountains, and the lives of mortals. Yet, even in their most fearsome manifestations, there is a sense of structure. The chaos they represent is bounded within the story, predictable in its patterns, and ultimately serving the balance of the mythic universe. This rhythm of rising tension and eventual resolution mirrors the natural cycles of day and night, of calm and storm, providing a soothing cadence for the listener's mind. The visual imagery of divs is particularly rich and captivating. Some are described with burning red eyes and jagged claws, others with dark, smoke-like forms that can stretch and twist unnaturally. They are beings of movement and energy, sometimes erupting from the ground or descending from high cliffs, yet their presence is always controlled by the narrative. As you imagine these creatures, allow the mind to focus on small details, the flicker of their fiery forms, the shadow they cast against the mountains, the subtle rustle of the wind through their domain. This careful attention creates a meditative state, where curiosity and wonder coexist with calm reflection. Even as these stories describe fearsome encounters, they are told in a slow, deliberate rhythm that encourages relaxation. The divs are terrifying, yes, but they are never sudden or shocking in the way modern horror might be. Instead, they emerge gradually, their presence felt through descriptive imagery and the tension of anticipation. This storytelling style allows the listener to immerse themselves fully, imagining the world and its monsters without being startled, preparing the mind for the gentle ebb and flow of fear and fascination that defines Persian myth. Finally, the tales of divs remind us that even the most chaotic forces have a place in the natural and moral order. They are neither entirely evil nor senseless. They challenge, instruct, and reveal the resilience and wisdom required to navigate life's uncertainties. By picturing their fiery dominion and imagining the heroes who face them, listeners are drawn into a world where danger is balanced by order, fear is softened by structure, and the imagination can wander freely while the mind remains calm. The divs, in all their complexity, become both terrifying companions and gentle guides, inviting the listener to explore ancient Persia's mythic landscapes with curiosity, reflection, and a sense of serene wonder.
Beyond the fiery dominion of the divs, there are mountains that rise like ancient guardians, their jagged peaks cloaked in mist and shadow. In these high, remote places dwell serpents and draconic creatures whose presence has haunted the imaginations of generations. Unlike the fiery chaos of the divs, these monsters are quieter, more patient, yet equally awe-inspiring. They slip silently through the mountain passes, their scales glimmering faintly in the moonlight, their eyes reflecting the stars. As we journey into these realms, imagine yourself walking along narrow paths where the wind hums softly through crags and valleys, and the distant echo of unseen creatures reaches your ears like a gentle whisper. These serpents are not merely physical threats, they are embodiments of the untamed and unpredictable forces of nature. Their long, sinuous bodies coil around rocky outcrops, their presence almost blending into the rugged terrain. Travelers and villagers spoke of the sound of their movement, the faint rustle of scales against stone, or the glint of eyes catching the first rays of dawn. The mountains themselves seem to bend around their forms, creating a world where danger and beauty coexist. In this sense, the serpents are more than monsters, they are natural extensions of the landscapes, reflecting the majesty, mystery, and subtle menace of the wild. Legends often describe these creatures as guardians of hidden treasures or sacred places, creatures whose appearance tests the courage and wisdom of those who dare to ascend the peaks. Unlike the divs, whose chaos and fire spread widely, mountain serpents are selective, emerging only when humans cross thresholds they are not meant to cross or disturb. The stories invite listeners to imagine the careful approach of a hero or traveler, moving slowly along narrow ridges, sensing the presence of something immense yet unseen. The suspense builds gently, like the slow rising of mist over a valley at dawn, keeping the mind engaged while maintaining a sense of calm and reflection. The physical descriptions of these serpents are both mesmerizing and slightly unsettling. Some tales speak of scales that shimmer in iridescent colors, reflecting the sunlight or moonlight in dazzling patterns. Others describe eyes that glow faintly, revealing intelligence and awareness beyond that of ordinary creatures. The serpent's long bodies can coil around entire cliffs, their movements precise, deliberate, and almost hypnotic. Listening to these descriptions in a calm, immersive storytelling cadence allows the imagination to wander freely, picturing each detail slowly, with the mind absorbing the rhythm of the landscape and the creature alike. These mountain serpents often serve as symbolic figures in the myths. Their elevated habitats place them closer to the heavens, suggesting a connection between the earthly and the divine, or between human endeavors and cosmic forces. They are neither entirely malevolent nor wholly benevolent. Instead, they reflect the complex balance of the natural world. A hero who encounters one may need to demonstrate courage, intelligence, and respect for the environment. Success in these encounters often relies as much on understanding and patience as on strength or skill, offering subtle moral and philosophical lessons within the narrative. The stories also highlight the serpent's patience and cunning. Unlike monsters who strike impulsively, these creatures often wait silently, observing intruders, gauging their intentions, and responding with measured precision. Imagine the tension in a quiet mountain pass, where every rustle of leaves or distant bird call could signal the presence of something unseen. Yet, the storytelling is never abrupt or alarming, it is drawn out gently, allowing the listener to imagine and anticipate, rather than be startled. This slow pacing is part of what makes these tales ideal for reflective listening, where suspense coexists with calm. In addition to guarding treasures or sacred places, mountain serpents sometimes represent the hidden dangers of human ambition or greed. Legends speak of climbers or adventurers who sought wealth or forbidden knowledge, only to encounter these creatures as a reminder that some forces are beyond human control. By imagining these encounters, listeners are invited to consider their own ambitions, fears, and limitations in a gentle, metaphorical way. The serpent's presence becomes a lens through which one can explore courage, humility, and respect for the natural and moral order of the world. The mountain landscapes themselves add to the immersive experience. Picture sharp cliffs and narrow ledges, clouds drifting through valleys, and the distant sound of cascading water echoing off rocks. The serpent's movements harmonize with these elements: a subtle rustle of scales against stone, a slow coil around a crag, a flick of the tail that sends small pebbles tumbling. Every detail reinforces the sense of realism and immersion, grounding the imagination in a world that feels alive while keeping the pace deliberate and calm. Even as these serpents are formidable and potentially deadly, the stories often emphasize a sense of respect rather than fear. Heroes learn to observe, to move quietly, and to understand the patterns of these creatures. The serpents are teachers as much as they are adversaries, guiding mortals through challenges that require patience, wisdom, and careful attention. This interplay between danger and guidance creates a rhythm in the storytelling that is both engaging and soothing, allowing the listener to experience the thrill of the encounter without anxiety or tension. Finally, as we leave the mountain passes and continue our journey through Persian mythology, it is important to carry the images of these serpents with a sense of calm reflection. Their elegance, patience, and subtle menace are reminders of the beauty and complexity of the natural world, and the careful balance between human curiosity and respect for forces beyond our control. By visualizing the mountains, the cliffs, and the slow, deliberate movements of these creatures, the mind remains gently engaged, poised to enter the next chapter of this immersive mythological journey. The stories of mountain serpents are as much about understanding and reflection as they are about awe and suspense, making them perfect companions for a relaxed, contemplative exploration of the terrifying and the wondrous.
As we move from the rugged peaks of the mountains, let us encounter a creature both mysterious and mesmerizing, Azhdaha, often referred to as the Whispering Hydra. Unlike some of the larger, more overtly destructive monsters of Persian mythology, Azhdaha is subtle, cunning, and incredibly intelligent. It is a multi-headed serpent, each head capable of independent thought, yet bound together in a single, flowing body. Its whispers are said to carry both secrets and deception, and its presence can be felt before it is seen. As you imagine this creature, picture a quiet riverbank under a silver moon, the water reflecting starlight, and a faint, almost imperceptible rustle along the reeds, the first hint that this ancient being is near. Azhdaha's whispering is its most distinguishing feature. The stories speak of travelers or heroes hearing soft voices carried on the wind, words that tempt, mislead, or sometimes warn. These whispers can fill the mind with confusion, a gentle tug of curiosity and doubt. Yet, in the careful cadence of storytelling, this element is not frightening in the harsh sense. It is more like the sound of a distant stream, drawing attention without alarm. The whispers invite reflection, urging listeners to consider intentions, choices, and the subtle consequences of actions. It is a monster that challenges the mind as much as the body, making it a fascinating subject for immersive, calm storytelling. Imagine approaching the lair of Azhdaha. It is said to dwell in secluded valleys, often near rivers that wind silently through the mountains. The area is serene, almost hypnotic, with the gentle murmur of water over stones and the soft rustle of leaves. Yet beneath this calm, there is a quiet tension, a presence that watches, calculating and aware. The creature's multi-headed form moves with fluid grace, each head observing the surroundings, listening, whispering. Its scales glimmer faintly in moonlight, sometimes appearing translucent, almost like glass or polished gemstones. The imagery is vivid but gentle, designed to engage the imagination while keeping the mind relaxed and contemplative. Azhdaha is not merely a physical adversary. In many tales, it tests the wisdom, patience, and moral judgment of those who approach it. Unlike monsters that rely solely on brute strength or fire, the Hydra's power lies in its intelligence and the subtlety of its influence. A hero may need to navigate its lair, decipher its whispers, or resist the temptations embedded in its voice. Each interaction becomes a delicate balance between courage and caution, insight and impulse. Listening to these stories, the mind can wander through these challenges at a relaxed pace, imagining solutions and strategies without the pressure of real danger. The symbolism of Azhdaha is rich and multifaceted. Its multiple heads suggest the complexity of challenges in life, each demanding attention and consideration. The whispering represents both knowledge and deception, a reminder that not everything in the world is as it appears. By facing this creature, heroes, and by extension, listeners, learn to navigate uncertainty, to distinguish between truth and illusion, and to act with clarity even when surrounded by ambiguity. The story becomes a meditative exercise, encouraging deep reflection while gently maintaining the rhythm of suspense and fascination. Visualize the Hydra in motion, its body undulating gracefully through the water, heads rising and falling in a synchronized dance, eyes glinting softly in the dim light. The whispers drift through the air like a delicate breeze, neither harsh nor sudden, but persistent enough to draw the mind's attention. As you imagine each detail, the shimmer of its scales, the movement of its serpentine body, the soft, hypnotic sound of its voice, you are not only picturing a monster but also participating in the rhythm of the story. The pace is slow and deliberate, allowing the mind to explore fear and curiosity in tandem, while maintaining a sense of calm and relaxation. Azhdaha's tales often include interaction with heroes who possess intelligence, patience, and moral integrity. Success does not come from aggression but from understanding, observation, and clever action. A traveler might notice a pattern in the creature's whispers, recognize the truth hidden among deception, or use the natural environment to navigate safely past its lair. These narratives emphasize that knowledge and insight can triumph over raw power, reinforcing themes of wisdom and patience that resonate deeply in a calming storytelling experience. The creature's environment is as much a character in the story as the Hydra itself. Picture mist rising off a quiet river in the early morning, dew glistening on reeds, and distant mountains casting long shadows over the valley. Every detail enhances the sense of immersion, grounding the story in a natural world that feels alive and real. Azhdaha moves within this world like a guardian of hidden truths, a reminder that even in serene landscapes, challenges and mysteries remain. By imagining these settings slowly and deliberately, the listener's mind is guided into a meditative, reflective state, perfectly suited to gentle, bedtime listening. Even the tension created by the Hydra is subtle. Unlike sudden scares or dramatic confrontations, the suspense is drawn out in measured steps. A rustle here, a flicker of movement there, a whisper that makes the listener pause and consider. This slow build encourages engagement without overstimulation, allowing curiosity and reflection to coexist with relaxation. The mind can follow the story's rhythm comfortably, anticipating challenges while remaining calm, immersed in the rich tapestry of Persian mythology. Finally, the story of Azhdaha leaves a lingering sense of awe and contemplation. The Hydra is both terrifying and beautiful, dangerous and instructive, a creature that embodies the complexity of nature, wisdom, and moral balance. By listening to its story in this slow, immersive way, one is invited to reflect on uncertainty, perception, and the subtle forces that shape the world. The whispering Hydra becomes more than a monster. It is a guide, a mirror, and a companion on this journey through the landscapes of ancient Persia, preparing the mind and imagination for the stories still to come. As we leave the mountains behind, our journey takes us into the vast, silent expanses of the Persian deserts, where the sun blazes during the day and the stars shimmer with extraordinary clarity at night. These deserts, with their shifting sands and endless horizons, are home to some of the most enigmatic and unsettling creatures of Persian mythology, the divas. Unlike serpents that silently guard mountain peaks, or divs who blaze across fiery plains, divas are spirits of the unseen, subtle in their influence, yet powerful in their capacity to instill unease. Their presence is felt more than it is seen, a quiet pressure in the wind, a whisper across the dunes, a shadow that lingers just beyond the edge of perception. Imagine a traveler moving slowly across the desert at twilight. The air is cool, the sand soft underfoot, and the distant mountains are painted in violet and gold by the setting sun. Suddenly, there is a pause in the rhythm of nature, a stillness that seems unnatural, a shift in the air. Perhaps the wind carries a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, or a shadow glides across the dunes in a way that defies the imagination. These are the subtle signs of divas, spirits that exist at the boundaries of perception, reminding humans that the world is never entirely as it appears. In this way, the story evokes fascination and gentle tension, rather than sudden fear, allowing the mind to wander and reflect calmly. Divas are often associated with darkness, temptation, and moral trials. In the myths, they appear when humans stray from the path of virtue, feeding off deceit, pride, and selfishness. Their influence is not always direct. They may sow confusion, whisper false promises, or create illusions to test the wisdom and integrity of travelers. Yet, the stories are careful to maintain a slow, deliberate rhythm. The listener is invited to imagine these tests at their own pace, observing the subtle signs, reflecting on the choices of heroes, and feeling the gentle pull of suspense without sudden alarm. This makes the narrative perfectly suited to a meditative, sleep-friendly exploration of mythology. The desert itself enhances the aura of the divas. Picture rolling dunes stretching endlessly under a sky streaked with the soft colors of sunset, the heat of the day gradually fading into the coolness of evening. Shadows deepen, and the first stars begin to glimmer. The air carries a faint hum, the sound of the desert settling into silence. It is in this environment that the divas move with ease, blending with the natural rhythm of the land. Their subtle presence becomes part of the sensory landscape, allowing listeners to visualize the world around them, feel the soft texture of sand, and hear the distant whisper of wind through the dunes. In some stories, the divas are tricksters, shaping illusions that mislead and confuse those who are not cautious. They may create mirages of water in the desert or mimic the voices of loved ones to draw travelers off course. These tales are not meant to shock but to intrigue, drawing attention to the interplay of perception, judgment, and wisdom. The monsters test the mind as much as the body, offering lessons in discernment, patience, and awareness. As you picture these scenarios, notice how the narrative unfolds slowly, step by step, allowing a gentle sense of tension to coexist with calm observation. Divas are also said to embody moral and spiritual imbalance. They reflect the consequences of actions driven by selfishness, cruelty, or thoughtlessness. In this way, each encounter becomes a quiet reflection on ethics and behavior, a meditation on the human capacity for both error and virtue. Unlike the sudden terror of some monsters, the diva's influence is pervasive and subtle, giving the listener space to contemplate the meaning behind their presence while remaining relaxed and immersed in the storytelling rhythm. Their appearances are often described as ethereal, almost translucent, with forms that flicker like heat waves across the sand. Sometimes, only their eyes are visible, glowing faintly in the twilight, watching and judging. Other times, they are felt as a cold brush against the skin or an inexplicable shift in the air. This ambiguity adds to their mystique, making them simultaneously terrifying and captivating, while the deliberate pacing ensures that the listener remains engaged without tension escalating into alarm. The focus is on imagination and reflection rather than fright, creating a perfect environment for calm immersion. Many tales of divas involve travelers or heroes navigating the desert alone, encountering these spirits at moments of vulnerability. The stories describe how they must rely on wisdom, intuition, and moral clarity to recognize and resist the influence of the divas. Success comes not from physical force but from awareness, discernment, and sometimes subtle cleverness. These narratives provide gentle guidance, illustrating that courage is not always loud and immediate but can be quiet, thoughtful, and enduring. Listening to these stories in a calm, meditative state allows the mind to internalize these lessons naturally, blending fascination with relaxation. The diva's connection to the desert also emphasizes the theme of isolation and reflection. The vast, open spaces create a sense of solitude that amplifies their presence without overwhelming the listener. Imagine standing alone on a dune at night, the cool air brushing against your face, the stars mirrored in the sand, and the faintest whisper drifting through the stillness. This is the essence of the desert in Persian mythology, a place where the unseen becomes palpable, where reflection and imagination intertwine, and where monsters serve as gentle guides through the human experience of uncertainty and moral challenge. Finally, as the night deepens in this desert landscape, the divas recede into legend, leaving only the quiet tension of anticipation and the sense of lessons learned. Their whispers linger in the mind, inviting reflection on courage, morality, and the subtle challenges that life presents. By imagining these spirits moving quietly across the sands, the listener experiences a gentle form of suspense, one that awakens curiosity while maintaining calmness, perfectly suited to the immersive, reflective storytelling style of Persian mythology. The divas are both mysterious and instructive, silent companions on this journey, guiding the imagination through the vast, quiet desert, and preparing the mind for the continuing encounters with monsters that dwell in other realms of this rich and ancient world. As our journey through Persian mythology continues, it becomes clear that monsters are never included in these stories merely to frighten. Each creature, the fiery divs, the serpentine Azhdaha, the whispering Srivara, and the elusive divas, carries a deeper purpose. They are teachers, mirrors, and guides, reflecting both the natural world and the moral landscapes of human experience. In Persian myths, fear is intertwined with reflection, and the stories invite the listener to consider not only the monsters themselves but also the values, choices, and wisdom required to navigate a world filled with danger and uncertainty. As you imagine these creatures, it helps to think of them as symbols, representing the challenges that exist both outside and within us. Monsters in these myths often embody specific human failings or destructive forces: greed, deception, pride, or impulsive aggression. Azhdaha's multiple heads, for example, each symbolize a different aspect of chaos, from deceit to uncontrolled desire. The divs, with their blazing forms and disruptive energy, remind listeners of the consequences of anger, cruelty, or excess. Even the subtle divas, whose presence is more whispered than seen, reflect moral imbalance and the dangers of straying from virtue. By imagining these monsters slowly and deliberately, the mind is invited to consider the nature of these traits, how they appear in the human world, and the importance of addressing them with wisdom and courage. The narratives often emphasize that monsters are not random threats but purposeful participants in the world's order. They test heroes, challenge communities, and create scenarios in which strength, intelligence, patience, and ethical integrity are revealed. A hero's confrontation with a monster is rarely about physical prowess alone. It is about discernment, reflection, and moral clarity. By imagining these encounters in a calm, immersive manner, the listener experiences the lessons of courage, strategy, and balance without the anxiety of real danger. The monsters become guides, teaching that understanding and preparation are as important as bravery. Symbolism also plays a crucial role in these stories. Mountains, deserts, and rivers are not merely physical landscapes, they are moral and spiritual terrains where the monsters reside. A serpent coiling around a mountain peak might represent the unseen dangers of ambition or pride. A diva whispering across the desert sands symbolizes the subtle temptations and deceptions that test the mind and spirit. By picturing these settings with care, the listener can sense the deeper meaning behind each encounter. The monsters exist within a framework that encourages reflection and careful observation, providing a gentle yet compelling structure to the narrative. One of the most profound lessons from Persian monsters is the relationship between fear and understanding. Fear in these myths is never abrupt or shocking, it is drawn out, allowing the listener to imagine and process it at a slow, measured pace. By observing a monster's movements, considering its motives, and anticipating its actions, one learns that fear can be approached thoughtfully, transformed into insight, and even appreciated for its beauty and complexity. This reflective approach encourages a calm engagement with the story, where tension and curiosity coexist without overwhelming the mind or body. The stories also highlight resilience and adaptation. Heroes often face multiple challenges at once: Azhdaha with its 3 heads, divs with their blazing chaos, and the whispering divas testing moral clarity. Success is rarely straightforward. It requires strategy, patience, and learning from previous encounters. By following the hero's journey, listeners absorb these lessons subtly, understanding that challenges in life, whether physical, moral, or emotional, can be met through careful thought, courage, and ethical action. The monsters teach that obstacles are not simply to be feared or avoided but navigated with attention, care, and respect for the natural and moral order. Another calming aspect of these tales is the rhythm of the storytelling itself. The myths are deliberately slow, immersive, and descriptive. Mountains, deserts, rivers, and forests are described in rich, vivid detail. Every movement of a monster, every whisper of the wind, every glint of sunlight on scales is observed patiently. This careful pacing mirrors the lessons of the monsters, that attention, reflection, and measured action are more powerful than impulsivity. For listeners, this rhythm promotes a sense of calm, allowing the mind to wander through the landscapes of imagination while absorbing the moral and philosophical truths embedded in the stories. Monsters also serve as mirrors, reflecting aspects of human behavior and the inner world. Their actions often parallel human failings or virtues, allowing listeners to see themselves in the narrative. A hero who resists the whispers of a diva demonstrates mindfulness and moral clarity, teaching that these qualities are valuable in everyday life. By imagining the monsters and their interactions with heroes, listeners engage in a form of gentle introspection, considering their own strengths, weaknesses, and potential for growth. This reflective process is calming, meditative, and deeply satisfying, reinforcing the dual purpose of fear and understanding in these myths. Even the terrifying aspects of these creatures are balanced with beauty and elegance. The serpentine grace of a mountain monster, the rhythmic whispers of a hydra, the fiery brilliance of a div, they all inspire awe as much as apprehension. The stories remind us that danger and beauty often coexist, that chaos and order are intertwined, and that understanding comes from observation, respect, and reflection. By imagining these qualities slowly and deliberately, the listener develops a sense of calm curiosity, appreciating the richness of the myths while allowing their mind to relax and drift into contemplation. Finally, reflecting on monsters as moral lessons helps us understand the enduring power of Persian mythology. These stories have survived for centuries precisely because they offer more than fright. They offer wisdom, structure, and a meditative rhythm that guides the listener through fear, reflection, and insight. By the end of a story, the mind has not only experienced a narrative of monsters and heroes but also absorbed subtle lessons about courage, morality, and the balance between chaos and order. The monsters become more than stories. They are companions in thought, teachers of resilience and understanding, and guides through the landscapes of imagination and the human experience. As our exploration of Persian mythology unfolds, we now lift our gaze from the mountains, deserts, and forests to the skies above, where cosmic and celestial monsters dwell. These creatures are not bound to the earth like the serpents of the mountains or the fiery divs of the plains. Instead, they inhabit the heavens, the stars, and the vast spaces between, influencing both the natural order and the fate of mortals below. Their stories are slower, more contemplative, drawing the listener into the rhythm of the cosmos itself, where awe, wonder, and gentle suspense coexist in perfect balance. Imagine yourself lying on a quiet hilltop, looking up at the velvet night sky, feeling the soft hum of the universe, as we begin to meet the celestial beings that watch over and sometimes challenge the world. Among the most intriguing of these cosmic monsters are the simmer and other celestial serpents, often depicted as enormous, winged beings whose wingspan eclipses the horizon. While the simmer is sometimes considered benevolent, other celestial serpents embody forces of destruction and chaos, reminding mortals that even the heavens are not free from the tension between order and disorder. Imagine a creature gliding silently through constellations, its feathers or scales shimmering with starlight, each movement slow and deliberate, as if the very cosmos bends around it. The imagery is both terrifying and mesmerizing, a delicate balance that encourages calm reflection while maintaining a sense of wonder and suspense. Cosmic monsters are often tied to the cycles of nature and the universe. Some represent storms, eclipses, or the changing seasons, while others embody the inevitability of fate. A celestial serpent might rise from the horizon as the sun sets, signaling a shift in time or destiny, while a starbound dragon may stir during moments of celestial alignment, marking turning points in human lives. The ancient Persians understood these creatures as symbolic guides, connecting human experience with the broader rhythms of existence. By imagining these beings slowly, with attention to their cosmic patterns and influence, the mind experiences both awe and serenity, learning to accept the vastness of the universe with curiosity rather than fear. The narrative approach to these celestial monsters is deliberate and reflective. Unlike the immediate confrontations of terrestrial creatures, the stories of cosmic beings unfold gradually. A hero may notice subtle signs in the sky, a flicker of starlight, an unusual alignment of constellations, or a shadow moving across the moon, before understanding the presence of a celestial monster. The listener is invited to move slowly with the story, tracing the patterns, observing the details, and contemplating the lessons hidden in cosmic events. This pacing is soothing, allowing the mind to drift into the narrative while remaining engaged with the imagery and symbolism. Some cosmic monsters are portrayed as guardians of divine knowledge or hidden truths. Their vast perspective allows them to see far beyond the mortal realm, perceiving the balance of creation, the interplay of light and darkness, and the threads of destiny that connect all living beings. In stories, heroes often seek these celestial creatures not for battle but for guidance, wisdom, or insight. This type of encounter transforms the monster from a figure of fear into a teacher, illustrating the importance of patience, observation, and reverence for forces larger than oneself. By imagining these encounters, listeners are invited to reflect on their own place in the universe and the subtle lessons that arise from understanding cosmic order. The visual depictions of celestial monsters are vivid yet gentle, designed to engage the imagination without startling. Picture wings spanning galaxies, bodies shimmering with starlight, and eyes that reflect the movement of planets. These creatures move with a rhythm that mirrors celestial motion, slow, deliberate, and precise, yet imbued with immense power. Their presence reminds listeners that the universe is alive with both beauty and danger, a perfect combination for immersive storytelling that encourages quiet fascination rather than alarm. By focusing on these details gradually, the mind becomes immersed in cosmic patterns, promoting relaxation and thoughtful contemplation. Celestial monsters also embody moral and philosophical lessons. Their actions often reflect the consequences of imbalance, hubris, or neglect of duty. A comet-shaped creature might sweep across the sky as a warning of moral failure, while a star dragon might appear when the balance between chaos and order is threatened. These stories encourage listeners to reflect on human behavior in relation to the greater cosmos, emphasizing responsibility, foresight, and humility. The narrative rhythm is crucial here. Tension rises slowly, insight is revealed incrementally, and reflection is intertwined with visualization, allowing the mind to absorb lessons while remaining calm. Some myths describe cosmic monsters as entities that influence dreams and visions. At night, when mortals sleep, these creatures traverse the skies, whispering truths, challenges, or warnings to those who are receptive. Imagine lying under a vast, starry sky, feeling the gentle sway of the night air, and sensing an invisible presence moving among the constellations. The stories suggest that the monster's influence is subtle, not sudden, encouraging quiet contemplation and gentle moral reflection. This slow, meditative approach is ideal for bedtime storytelling, where suspense exists without triggering anxiety, and curiosity can coexist with calmness. Encounters with cosmic monsters often require a different type of heroism than terrestrial conflicts. Here, success is not measured by physical strength but by perception, patience, and the capacity to understand complex patterns. Heroes may interpret signs in the sky, recognize the alignment of celestial forces, or respond to subtle challenges with wisdom rather than aggression. The listener, following these narratives, is invited to mirror this contemplative approach, observing patterns, imagining the vastness of the universe, and considering the moral and philosophical implications of the monster's actions. This engagement fosters a deep, reflective sense of calm and curiosity. Finally, the presence of cosmic monsters in Persian mythology underscores a central theme of the myths: the interconnectedness of all things. Mountains, deserts, rivers, forests, and the heavens are populated with beings that test, teach, and illuminate. Celestial monsters remind us that human experience is part of a vast, interwoven tapestry, where every choice, every action, and every encounter has meaning. By imagining the stars, the slow movements of cosmic creatures, and their subtle influence on the world below, the listener is invited into a gentle, meditative rhythm, a combination of awe, reflection, and calm immersion that defines the most memorable stories of Persian mythology. As we continue our journey through Persian mythology, we turn our attention to a class of monsters that are particularly elusive and unpredictable: the shape-shifting tricksters. Unlike the serpents of the mountains or the fiery divs, these creatures are masters of illusion, deception, and transformation. They can appear as humans, animals, or even objects, changing their form to suit their intentions. Their stories are less about brute force and more about cunning, perception, and the careful navigation of uncertainty. Imagine walking through a quiet forest or along a deserted path at twilight, where shadows shift subtly, the wind carries faint whispers, and the ordinary seems slightly altered. This is the world of shapeshifters, where nothing is quite as it appears, and every detail invites reflection and gentle anticipation. These trickster monsters serve as tests of wit and wisdom. A hero or traveler encountering such a creature must look beyond appearances, question assumptions, and discern truth from illusion. Some stories describe a creature appearing as a lost child, calling for help, only to reveal its true form when the observer is too close. Others involve objects that move or change mysteriously, hinting at an unseen intelligence at play. The pace of these stories is slow and deliberate, allowing the listener to absorb the subtleties of deception and the lessons embedded in careful observation. There is no sudden shock. Instead, suspense builds gradually, encouraging curiosity and reflection rather than fear. The symbolism of shape-shifting monsters is rich. Their transformations often represent the fluidity of reality and the uncertainty inherent in life. They remind listeners that appearances can be misleading, that intuition and discernment are essential, and that flexibility in thought and action is crucial for navigating challenges. As you imagine these creatures, picture the subtle changes in form: a fox that pauses and blinks, becoming human for a fleeting moment, or a tree branch that seems to sway independently, hinting at a hidden presence. These visual cues engage the mind gently, creating a meditative state in which both imagination and calm coexist. In some myths, shapeshifters act as moral guides or cautionary figures. By tempting humans or leading them astray, they reveal weaknesses in character, testing patience, honesty, and courage. For instance, a trickster may pose moral dilemmas, presenting choices where the easy path is deceptive, and the right path requires careful judgment. These encounters encourage reflection on ethical behavior and the consequences of actions. The monsters themselves are not purely evil. They exist to teach, challenge, and illuminate, reinforcing the pattern of Persian mythology where fear and awe are intertwined with lessons and moral insight. The environments in which shapeshifters appear are often liminal spaces, edges of forests, quiet riverbanks, crossroads at twilight, places where the ordinary meets the unknown. Imagine standing at a river bend, the water moving quietly over stones, the reflection of trees shimmering in the fading light. A figure appears on the opposite bank, only to vanish when you approach, leaving a lingering sense of curiosity. These spaces, like the monsters themselves, occupy the threshold between reality and imagination, inviting calm observation and gentle anticipation. By picturing such settings slowly, the listener is guided into a reflective state, ready to absorb the story's lessons without tension or fear. Shape-shifting tricksters are also associated with transformation and adaptability. Their ability to change form mirrors the human capacity to adapt to new circumstances, confront uncertainty, and find creative solutions. A hero who navigates encounters with these creatures successfully demonstrates insight, flexibility, and ethical discernment. By imagining the process of observation, reflection, and decision-making, listeners internalize these lessons naturally. The narrative rhythm is slow and deliberate, mirroring the creature's subtle manipulations, fostering a state of calm engagement where curiosity and learning coexist. These creatures often possess intelligence that rivals or surpasses that of humans. Some tales describe them outwitting kings or heroes, revealing that strength alone is not enough to navigate the world. In contrast, patience, observation, and strategic thinking are highlighted as the keys to success. For the listener, this creates a form of suspense that is intellectually stimulating yet emotionally soothing. By following the narrative slowly, imagining the intricate interactions between hero and trickster, the mind is gently challenged and engaged, without jolts or fear that disrupt relaxation. The visual aspects of shapeshifters are particularly captivating. Some are described as fluid and luminous, with outlines that shift and ripple like water or mist. Others adopt forms that are ordinary at first glance but reveal subtle, uncanny details upon closer observation. A smile that seems too wide, eyes that gleam unnaturally, or a shadow that moves independently. These descriptions are immersive, drawing the listener into careful observation and reflection. By attending to such details slowly and deliberately, the imagination is engaged in a way that is calming, meditative, and deeply satisfying. Interactions with shape-shifting monsters often highlight the themes of trust and discernment. A hero may need to listen carefully to words and sounds, observe subtle cues, or test the environment for clues. Mistakes are not catastrophic but instructive, emphasizing learning and adaptability. This narrative structure mirrors the lessons of life, where careful attention, patience, and ethical choices lead to understanding and resolution. The calm, measured rhythm of these stories reinforces the soothing, immersive experience, ideal for reflective listening before sleep. Finally, shape-shifting monsters remind us that the unknown is not necessarily to be feared. Instead, it can be approached with curiosity, reflection, and respect. The tricksters challenge perception, encourage discernment, and reveal the subtle balance between chaos and order, illusion and truth. By imagining their transformations slowly, observing their interactions with heroes, and reflecting on their symbolic meanings, the listener engages in a gentle meditation on adaptability, wisdom, and moral insight. These creatures, elusive and mysterious, become companions in thought and imagination, guiding the mind through a slow, reflective journey that is both calming and enriching, preparing the imagination for the next chapter of our exploration of Persian mythology. As we leave the forests and deserts behind, our journey now takes us to the flowing, reflective realms of rivers, lakes, and streams, where water monsters and river spirits dwell. In Persian mythology, these creatures embody the fluidity, mystery, and sometimes unpredictability of water itself. Unlike the blazing divs or the whispering divas, water monsters are often subtle, their movements smooth and deliberate, their influence as gentle as it is powerful. Picture yourself sitting beside a quiet river at twilight, the water reflecting the fading colors of the sky, soft ripples moving across its surface. Somewhere beneath the calm reflection, a creature stirs, its presence sensed more than seen, inviting curiosity, reflection, and gentle awe. One of the most captivating water creatures is often described as a serpent or dragon inhabiting the depths of rivers. Its body glides silently beneath the surface, scales catching the light in a faint shimmer, eyes peering with intelligence and awareness. Legends speak of travelers glimpsing only fleeting glimpses, a tail breaking the water, a ripple in an otherwise calm pool, or a shadow gliding beneath a boat. The narrative is careful to maintain a slow, deliberate pace, encouraging the listener to imagine the scene gradually, to feel the rhythm of the water, and to sense the creature's presence without alarm. This slow unfolding creates a calming yet immersive storytelling experience. Water monsters are frequently tied to moral lessons and natural balance. They may appear when humans disrupt rivers, lakes, or ecosystems, feeding off greed, neglect, or carelessness. A fisherman who overuses the river's resources might encounter a serpent that warns or tests him, requiring reflection and ethical decision-making. In this way, the monsters teach respect for nature, illustrating that actions have consequences, even in realms as serene as a quiet river. The stories emphasize mindfulness and observation, allowing the listener to internalize these lessons gently while imagining the watery landscapes. River spirits, in contrast, are sometimes more ethereal and subtle. They can appear as glowing forms beneath the water, reflections that shift mysteriously, or gentle voices carried on the current. These spirits are often protective rather than destructive, guiding travelers, offering warnings, or aiding those who approach with respect and humility. Their presence reinforces the dual nature of water in Persian mythology. It can nurture life and provide sustenance, but it can also conceal hidden dangers. The narrative encourages the listener to reflect on balance, respect, and awareness, fostering a sense of calm curiosity as the story unfolds. The sensory details in these myths are particularly vivid. Imagine the cool touch of water over your hand, the gentle murmur of a stream over rocks, the soft glint of moonlight dancing across the surface. In these settings, water monsters move gracefully, sometimes blending almost completely with their surroundings, their ripples the only hint of their existence. The storytelling emphasizes these details slowly and deliberately, allowing the listener's mind to explore the environment in depth, absorbing the ambience while anticipating the subtle movements of the creatures beneath the surface. Some water monsters are guardians of hidden treasures or sacred places, much like their terrestrial counterparts. Heroes or travelers seeking knowledge, wealth, or mystical insight may have to navigate rivers or lakes inhabited by these beings. Success often requires patience, careful observation, and ethical behavior rather than brute force. Perhaps a hero notices a pattern in the ripples, interprets a reflection in the water, or respects the creature's territory, thereby earning safe passage or a reward. These encounters create a gentle tension, fostering engagement and reflection, while maintaining a calm and meditative atmosphere. In other stories, water monsters challenge human perception. A serpent might appear to split into multiple forms, or a river spirit might create illusions on the surface of a lake. These challenges encourage mindfulness and careful observation, teaching that reality is not always straightforward. Listeners are invited to imagine the subtle changes, the ripples that indicate movement beneath, the faint glimmers of scales just beneath the surface. The suspense is slow and contemplative, designed to engage the imagination without startling, perfectly suited to immersive, reflective listening. Water monsters also often represent the interplay between the known and the unknown. A calm river may hide a serpent or a spirit beneath, just as human experience conceals hidden truths or challenges. By navigating encounters with these beings, heroes, and listeners learn the value of patience, observation, and ethical action. The stories remind us that what lies beneath the surface is not always immediately visible, and that understanding comes from careful attention, humility, and reflection. This metaphorical depth adds layers to the storytelling, allowing the listener to drift through both literal and symbolic waters in a calm, meditative state. The interplay between light and shadow in water settings is another compelling element. Moonlight or sunlight glinting on ripples can create the illusion of movement, hinting at the creature's presence. Fog rising from a river in early morning might hide a serpent, creating subtle suspense. These environmental details are slow to unfold, and the listener is encouraged to visualize them gradually. The rhythm of the water, the sway of reeds along the bank, and the soft sound of currents create a gentle auditory and mental backdrop for the story, enhancing immersion while maintaining relaxation. Finally, water monsters remind us of the broader themes of Persian mythology: balance, reflection, and ethical engagement with the world. They are not merely frightening, they are instructive, symbolic, and deeply connected to the rhythms of nature. By imagining rivers, lakes, and streams populated with subtle serpents and ethereal spirits, the listener is invited into a contemplative journey. The creature's presence encourages reflection on patience, moral insight, and the delicate balance between human actions and the natural world. The stories move slowly, rhythmically, and gently, allowing awe and curiosity to coexist with calm, meditative engagement. In this way, water monsters become companions in thought, guiding the imagination through the reflective, fluid landscapes of Persian mythology, preparing the mind for the next chapter in our exploration of legendary and terrifying beings. As our journey continues, we now turn to a realm of intense heat and radiant energy, the world of monsters associated with fire and flame. In Persian mythology, fire is a powerful and transformative force, representing both creation and destruction. Creatures that inhabit this domain are often awe-inspiring, terrifying, yet deeply symbolic. They embody the duality of energy, its ability to illuminate and warm, as well as to consume and devastate. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast volcanic plain, the air shimmering with heat, the ground beneath your feet faintly vibrating, and flickers of flame dancing across distant ridges. These monsters exist in a realm that is at once dangerous and mesmerizing, inviting the mind to slow down, absorb the imagery, and contemplate the deeper lessons encoded in their myths. Among the most famous fire monsters are the blazing divs, beings of immense power whose presence is announced by roaring flames and the smell of smoke carried on the wind. These creatures are not mindless. They possess intelligence, intent, and a deep connection to the elemental force they embody. Imagine one rising slowly from a river of molten rock, its eyes glinting like molten metal, its claws leaving sizzling traces on the stone. The narrative unfolds gradually, emphasizing the heat, the movement, and the aura of power surrounding the creature. By visualizing these details slowly, the listener is drawn into a contemplative, almost hypnotic state, where awe and subtle tension coexist with calm. Fire monsters often serve as tests of courage, wisdom, and ethical integrity. In many myths, a hero must navigate a path through a fiery landscape, confront a blazing div, or retrieve a sacred object guarded by fire. The stories emphasize not the rush of panic, but the deliberate, measured response required to succeed. A hero might observe patterns in the flames, notice shifts in the monster's behavior, or rely on cleverness rather than brute strength. These narratives are instructive, demonstrating that careful observation, patience, and moral clarity can overcome even the most fearsome of adversaries. For listeners, the experience is immersive and reflective, encouraging a slow, thoughtful engagement with the story. Fire monsters are also deeply symbolic. Their flames represent transformation, illumination, and purification. Just as fire can refine metal, these creatures often test the inner qualities of those who encounter them. Facing a fire monster may reveal courage, resolve, and ethical insight, while failure may highlight arrogance, recklessness, or greed. In this sense, the monsters are teachers as much as they are threats, guiding both heroes and listeners toward reflection and understanding. The deliberate pacing of the narrative mirrors the flickering, rhythmic nature of fire, creating a hypnotic, calming storytelling experience. The environments inhabited by fire monsters are as vivid as the creatures themselves. Imagine volcanic plains, glowing fissures, and rivers of molten lava, with smoke curling lazily into the sky. Sparks drift on the breeze like tiny stars, and distant eruptions illuminate the landscape with brief flashes of brilliance. These details are described slowly and meticulously in the stories, allowing the listener to immerse themselves in the rhythm of the fiery world. The heat, the glow, and the movement of flames create a sensory experience that is intense yet controlled, encouraging reflection and calm engagement rather than fear. Some myths describe fire monsters as guardians of sacred knowledge or divine secrets. Their flames protect objects, places, or wisdom that must be approached with respect and understanding. Heroes often cannot confront these creatures with force alone. Success requires patience, discernment, and sometimes cunning. Observing the flicker of flames, the movement of smoke, or subtle changes in the monster's posture provides clues to navigate encounters safely. The slow, measured pace of storytelling mirrors the careful attention required, encouraging listeners to internalize lessons about observation, strategy, and ethical engagement with power. The visual imagery of fire monsters is particularly mesmerizing. Imagine a div whose body is a cascade of molten orange and red, with sparks drifting from its scales. Its eyes burn with intelligence and intent, and its claws leave trails of heat that shimmer in the air. The rhythm of its movements mirrors the undulating patterns of flames, slow and deliberate yet filled with energy. The listener is encouraged to picture these details gradually, absorbing the visual and symbolic richness of the scene, allowing the imagination to wander freely while maintaining a sense of calm and reflective attention. Fire monsters are also associated with the cycles of nature. They appear in stories at moments of transformation or change, marking transitions between seasons, times of day, or stages in a hero's journey. Flames might cleanse a corrupted land, illuminate hidden truths, or provide energy necessary for growth. By linking monsters to natural and cosmic cycles, the stories encourage a contemplative understanding of balance, impermanence, and the interconnectedness of life. Listeners can imagine these processes slowly, noticing patterns in the flames and reflecting on the symbolic meanings embedded within, fostering a calm, meditative engagement with the myth. Some tales highlight the subtle intelligence of fire monsters. They may anticipate a hero's movements, adapt to new strategies, or test patience over long periods. Unlike sudden modern horror, the tension is drawn out deliberately, with careful attention to observation, timing, and decision-making. This pacing invites listeners to mirror the hero's thought process, thinking carefully and reflecting on actions in a calm, immersive rhythm. The monsters are not designed to startle abruptly, but to engage the mind gently, providing both suspense and reflection. Finally, fire monsters remind us that danger and beauty can coexist. Their flames, though potentially destructive, are also radiant, mesmerizing, and instructive. By imagining these creatures slowly, observing their movements, and reflecting on the moral and symbolic lessons they embody, the listener experiences a rich, immersive narrative that balances awe with calm contemplation. These beings, with their fiery presence and deliberate actions, serve as guides through the transformative and moral landscapes of Persian mythology, encouraging reflection, patience, and ethical engagement. The story of fire monsters teaches that power, like fire, is to be respected and understood, and that even the most terrifying forces can illuminate, instruct, and inspire when approached with care and wisdom. As our journey moves from the blazing plains of fire, we now descend into a darker, quieter realm, the underworld, where monsters dwell in shadows and silence. In Persian mythology, the underworld is not only a place of fear and endings but also a space of reflection, mystery, and hidden knowledge. The creatures that inhabit this world are slow, deliberate, and deeply symbolic, embodying the unknown, the unconscious, and the unseen forces that shape life and death. Imagine walking down a winding cavern, the walls damp with moisture, the faint echo of dripping water in the distance, and shadows stretching unnaturally along the jagged rock. In this quiet darkness, monsters stir, not with loud roars, but with subtle, deliberate movements, drawing attention to the mind's need for awareness, patience, and understanding. The underworld monsters often have forms that are simultaneously fascinating and unsettling. Some appear as enormous serpents coiling through tunnels, their scales blending with the rocky walls, eyes glimmering like faint embers. Others are ghostly, translucent shapes that drift silently through caverns, their presence felt before it is seen. These creatures teach listeners to pay attention to subtle cues, to notice patterns, and to understand that the unseen often holds as much power as the visible. The slow pacing of the narrative allows the mind to absorb these details gradually, fostering a sense of calm, curiosity, and reflection. Many underworld monsters serve as guardians or judges. They test the courage, integrity, and insight of those who enter their domain. A hero may need to navigate winding passages, decipher cryptic symbols, or resist temptations that prey on fear and uncertainty. These encounters emphasize mindfulness and discernment rather than physical strength. The monster's power lies in their ability to reveal inner truths, highlight weaknesses, and challenge perception. For the listener, this creates a reflective experience, where suspense unfolds gently, allowing the imagination to explore the underworld while maintaining a meditative, relaxed state. Some creatures of the underworld are closely linked to the concept of death and transformation. Their forms and actions often symbolize the passage from life to the afterlife, the inevitability of endings, and the subtle cycles of rebirth. Imagine a spectral figure gliding through a cavern, its movements so slow and deliberate that each gesture seems to echo the passage of time itself. The stories encourage contemplation of mortality, change, and the unseen forces that guide life's journey. By following these tales at a slow, immersive pace, the listener can reflect on these profound themes without fear or anxiety, experiencing both awe and calm. The underworld environment itself enhances the immersive experience. Caverns twist and turn, streams of dark water flow silently, and stalactites drip rhythmically, creating a natural cadence that mirrors the creature's movements. Shadows shift gradually, and the faintest glimmers of light, perhaps from a distant crystal or the creature's eyes, create subtle visual cues that draw attention without startling. This careful description encourages the listener to engage all senses, to visualize the landscape, and to follow the creature's movements in a slow, reflective rhythm. The result is a calming, almost hypnotic experience that deepens immersion. Underworld monsters are also associated with moral and spiritual lessons. Their presence often reflects human fears, hidden desires, or unresolved guilt. A hero encountering such a being may need to confront their own inner weaknesses, demonstrate courage in the face of uncertainty, or act with integrity despite temptation. The creatures serve as mirrors, revealing aspects of human character that are otherwise concealed. By imagining these encounters gradually, listeners are guided into gentle introspection, recognizing the symbolic significance of the monsters and the moral lessons embedded in their stories. Some myths describe underworld monsters as guides rather than threats. They can lead worthy travelers through labyrinthine tunnels, reveal hidden treasures, or provide insight into hidden truths. Their guidance is subtle, often communicated through gestures, sounds, or glimpses of light in the darkness. These stories emphasize respect, patience, and observation, encouraging the listener to approach challenges thoughtfully and with ethical awareness. The calm, deliberate rhythm of the narrative mirrors the slow, careful pace required to navigate these encounters successfully, enhancing both engagement and relaxation. Even the more fearsome underworld monsters are depicted with a sense of balance. They are not chaotic for the sake of chaos. Instead, their presence maintains equilibrium in the underworld, ensuring that only those who are prepared or worthy can traverse it safely. Their actions, while potentially dangerous, are measured and purposeful. By imagining these creatures carefully, observing their movements, and understanding their symbolic significance, listeners can experience suspense and fascination without alarm, engaging in a reflective, meditative interaction with the myth. The interplay between darkness and subtle light in the underworld is another calming and immersive element. Flickering bioluminescent fungi, glimmering crystals, or the faint glow from the eyes of a monster provide a delicate illumination, guiding attention and imagination. These elements create a rhythm that is both visually and mentally soothing, allowing the listener to explore the depths of the underworld at a slow, contemplative pace. Shadows shift gradually, and the mind learns to anticipate and interpret without rushing, reinforcing patience, awareness, and reflection. Finally, underworld monsters remind us of the broader themes of Persian mythology: balance, moral insight, and the interconnectedness of all realms. Just as monsters inhabit mountains, deserts, rivers, and skies, the underworld is populated with creatures that test, teach, and illuminate. Their slow, deliberate movements, their symbolic lessons, and the immersive, meditative environments they inhabit all contribute to a calm yet deeply engaging storytelling experience. By imagining these monsters and their world carefully, listeners gain insight into courage, morality, and the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of life, preparing the mind for the continuing journey through the rich and terrifying landscape of Persian mythology. As we rise from the depths of the underworld, our journey takes us into the vast, ever-changing realm of air and storms. In Persian mythology, monsters of the sky are as mysterious as they are powerful, inhabiting the winds, clouds, and tempests that shape the world. These creatures are not bound to earth or water, they move freely, unseen yet deeply influential, their presence felt in the movement of air, the roar of thunder, or the flicker of lightning across the horizon. Imagine standing on a quiet hilltop at dusk, the sky painted in soft pastels, feeling a gentle breeze brush across your face. Somewhere above, a creature stirs, its wings slicing through the clouds, invisible currents shifting as it passes, inviting both wonder and gentle anticipation. Sky monsters are often depicted as immense birds, dragons, or hybrid creatures with wings that span mountains and claws that can stir winds across the plains. Their movement is fluid and deliberate, gliding through currents with effortless grace. Unlike the fiery divs whose presence is immediate and overwhelming, these creatures unfold slowly, their arrival hinted at by subtle changes in the air, a sudden gust, a ripple through the clouds, or the faint echo of distant thunder. The stories encourage careful observation and reflection, allowing the listener to notice patterns and rhythms without rushing, fostering a sense of calm curiosity. One of the central themes associated with aerial monsters is the unpredictability of nature. Storms and high winds can bring both destruction and renewal, and the creatures of the air reflect this duality. They are powerful, yes, but their power is balanced and purposeful. A hero encountering such a monster may need to read the signs in the sky, understand the rhythm of the wind, or navigate the changing weather with patience and skill. These narratives highlight intelligence, strategy, and observation, rather than brute force, offering lessons that resonate beyond the myth itself. For the listener, the story unfolds like a meditation on the patterns of the natural world. The environments inhabited by these sky monsters are often vast and dramatic. Picture a storm slowly rolling across the horizon, clouds swirling in shifting patterns, lightning illuminating distant peaks, and rain beginning to fall in soft, rhythmic sheets. Somewhere within this dynamic sky, a monster glides, its form partially concealed by the movement of clouds and mist. The listener is encouraged to imagine these scenes gradually, noticing the interplay between light and shadow, movement and stillness, calm and turbulence. This careful pacing mirrors the slow unfolding of a storm and creates a meditative, immersive experience that is both calming and engaging. Many aerial monsters are also linked to divine forces or cosmic balance. In some stories, they serve as messengers, carrying warnings or guidance from the heavens to humans below. Others act as enforcers of natural law, controlling winds, storms, and rain, ensuring that the balance of the elements is maintained. By interacting with these creatures, heroes learn the importance of respect, timing, and ethical decision-making. The monster's presence encourages listeners to consider the interconnectedness of all things, the skies, the earth, and the moral and natural forces that govern existence. The symbolic nature of air and storm monsters is particularly striking. Air represents freedom, change, and the unseen forces that influence life, while storms embody both chaos and transformation. A winged serpent riding the currents may symbolize the power of insight or intuition, while a tempestuous bird might represent the need to confront challenges with patience and clarity. By imagining these symbols gradually, the listener engages in a reflective process, absorbing lessons about perception, adaptability, and the subtle forces that shape our world. The narrative encourages careful, deliberate attention, guiding the imagination into a calm and contemplative state. The sensory details in these myths enhance immersion. Feel the wind brushing against your skin, hear the distant rumble of thunder, and notice the rhythmic patter of rain on leaves or rooftops. Sky monsters are often partially visible, perhaps a wingtip glimpse through a break in the clouds, eyes glinting briefly, or a shadow moving across the horizon. These cues create a slow-building suspense, where the listener's imagination participates actively, observing, anticipating, and reflecting without alarm. The careful pacing ensures that the story remains soothing and meditative, even as it engages the imagination. Some aerial monsters are also tricksters, testing humans' perception and patience. They might create mirages in clouds, change the direction of winds, or mimic the sounds of storms to mislead travelers. Heroes encountering these beings must rely on careful observation, reasoning, and ethical judgment to navigate their challenges. The stories emphasize the need for discernment and mindfulness, teaching that understanding and patience can overcome even the most elusive and powerful forces. For listeners, this approach offers gentle suspense, intellectual engagement, and a calm, immersive meditation on the natural and moral worlds. The interaction between light, shadow, and movement in the sky plays a significant role in storytelling. Lightning briefly illuminates the hidden form of a monster, clouds drift slowly to reveal wings or eyes, and sunlight reflects off feathers or scales. These visual cues are carefully paced within the narrative, encouraging the listener to notice subtle details and draw meaning from observation. The slow unfolding of these elements mirrors the gradual nature of understanding, reinforcing the meditative rhythm of the story and the calming, reflective qualities of the monsters themselves. Finally, monsters of air and storms embody the balance of power and patience, chaos and order. They remind listeners that the world is shaped by both visible and invisible forces, that attention and reflection are essential, and that challenges can be approached with calm intelligence. By imagining these creatures slowly, observing their movements, and reflecting on their symbolic meanings, the listener engages in a gentle meditation on nature, morality, and the rhythms of life. These aerial beings, with their deliberate motion and ethereal presence, guide the imagination through vast skies and shifting storms, preparing the mind for continued exploration of Persian mythology's terrifying and fascinating monsters. As we descend from the boundless skies and the swirling storms, our journey takes us into the quiet, shadowed depths of the forests and wildlands, where monsters of wood and wilderness dwell. In Persian mythology, forests are alive, not only with the rustle of leaves and the movements of animals but also with enigmatic creatures that embody both the beauty and danger of untamed nature. Imagine stepping slowly through a dense forest at dusk, the air cool and fragrant with moss and damp earth, shafts of fading sunlight filtering through tall, ancient trees, and distant, subtle movements hinting at life hidden just beyond the eye. Here, the monsters move softly, deliberately, blending into the shadows and foliage, inviting the imagination to explore and reflect. Forest monsters are often guardians of nature, embodying the untamed, unpredictable forces of the wild. Some appear as enormous, wolf-like beasts with eyes that gleam like polished amber, moving silently between trees. Others take more ethereal forms, ghostly figures drifting through mist, half-seen glimpses of shapes that seem almost part of the forest itself. Their presence is not necessarily malevolent. Instead, these creatures serve to remind humans of the need for respect, awareness, and harmony with the natural world. The stories unfold slowly, encouraging the listener to imagine the creature's movements gradually, noticing every subtle sound, shadow, and ripple in the undergrowth, creating a calm yet engaging experience. Many forest monsters act as guardians of sacred places, ancient groves, or hidden springs. They test the intentions of those who enter their domain, assessing whether travelers act with reverence, caution, and ethical awareness. A hero might encounter a monster blocking a path, requiring patience, observation, and cleverness rather than strength to proceed. The creature's subtle gestures, the slight shift of a leaf, or the glimmer of eyes in the shadows provide clues to navigate the encounter. The deliberate pacing of the story mirrors the careful, reflective attention required in the forest, allowing listeners to absorb both the imagery and the moral lessons at a relaxed, immersive pace. Forest monsters are also deeply symbolic. They often represent the unknown aspects of human nature or the hidden challenges of life. A creeping shadow in the underbrush may embody fear or doubt, while a majestic, towering creature might symbolize resilience, wisdom, or patience. By imagining these creatures slowly and deliberately, the listener is encouraged to reflect on their own inner landscapes, the subtle interplay of courage, fear, and curiosity. The stories highlight that understanding and respect, rather than haste or aggression, are the keys to navigating both forests and life itself. The sensory details of the forest setting enhance immersion. The soft rustle of leaves, the gentle babble of a hidden brook, the occasional crackle of a branch underfoot, all create a layered soundscape that mirrors the creature's subtle movements. Light and shadow interplay among the trees, revealing glimpses of a creature before it retreats into darkness. By attending to these details gradually, the listener's imagination becomes active yet relaxed, following the rhythm of the forest and the creatures within it. This slow unfolding encourages reflection, calm curiosity, and a gentle sense of suspense without alarm. Some forest monsters are also shapeshifters, able to blend seamlessly into the landscape or mimic other creatures. A fox may be a guardian spirit in disguise, or a shadowy figure might transform into a tree to watch silently. These transformations highlight the forest's mysterious, ever-changing nature and emphasize the need for discernment, patience, and observation. Heroes must pay careful attention to patterns in the environment, subtle shifts in sound or movement, and faint signs of life that reveal the monster's presence. For the listener, this slow, deliberate storytelling fosters a meditative engagement with both imagination and ethical reflection. The forest environment itself often mirrors the monster's qualities. Dense undergrowth, towering trees, winding paths, and hidden clearings create a sense of mystery and depth, while the creature's movements within these spaces emphasize subtlety, patience, and intelligence. Imagine a monster pausing behind a thick tree trunk, its eyes reflecting the last rays of sunlight, before gliding silently into the shadows. The slow rhythm of such scenes encourages the listener to explore the forest mentally at a gentle pace, noticing details gradually and internalizing the moral and symbolic aspects of the story. Forest monsters frequently challenge human perception and intuition. A hero may be misled by illusions, sounds, or movements that appear threatening but are actually tests of character. The creatures may create faint trails, shifting patterns of light and shadow, or mimic the sounds of other animals to observe how the traveler reacts. These subtle challenges teach mindfulness, discernment, and ethical awareness. Listeners are invited to imagine these interactions slowly, allowing suspense and curiosity to unfold in a calm, controlled rhythm, perfectly suited to bedtime storytelling. Many myths describe the harmonious balance between forest monsters and their environment. These creatures are not chaotic intruders. They are integral to the ecosystem, ensuring that humans, animals, and spirits coexist respectfully. They remind listeners that understanding, observation, and ethical behavior are essential for navigating any complex system, whether natural or moral. By imagining the creature's deliberate interactions with their surroundings, the listener internalizes lessons about patience, respect, and the subtle balance between power and restraint. Finally, monsters of the forests and wildlands reflect the larger themes of Persian mythology: balance, reflection, and moral insight. They teach that danger and beauty coexist, that observation and patience are essential, and that the unknown holds both challenge and opportunity. By imagining these creatures slowly, observing their movements, and reflecting on their symbolic significance, the listener experiences a rich, immersive meditation on courage, respect, and awareness. Forest monsters guide the imagination through shadowed paths, hidden clearings, and quiet groves, preparing the mind for further exploration of Persian mythology's terrifying yet instructive monsters, blending awe, reflection, and calm into a seamless storytelling experience. As night falls over the lands and forests we have explored, our journey now enters a realm that exists between reality and imagination, the world of monsters of night and dreams. In Persian mythology, these creatures inhabit the quiet hours when the world sleeps, moving through shadows, dreams, and the thin veil between consciousness and the unseen. Unlike the fire, air, or forest monsters, night monsters are subtle, ethereal, and often invisible to the untrained eye. Imagine lying in a darkened room, the gentle hush of the night around you, shadows soft and ever-shifting, and the faint stirrings of a presence that cannot be fully seen. This is the world these creatures inhabit, inviting calm curiosity and gentle reflection rather than sudden fear. Monsters of night and dreams often take forms that are fluid, shifting, and sometimes surreal. A creature might appear as a fleeting shadow on the wall, a whisper in the wind, or a figure that dissolves like mist before your eyes. These beings reflect the mutable, elusive nature of dreams themselves, where reality bends and imagination flows freely. Their movements are slow and deliberate, echoing the rhythm of sleep, gentle, immersive, and softly hypnotic. For the listener, this pacing fosters a meditative engagement, allowing the mind to explore the landscape of night safely and contemplatively. One of the central qualities of these monsters is their ability to reveal hidden truths. In myths, heroes and mortals alike encounter dream monsters that test courage, reveal fears, or offer insight into subconscious thoughts. They may appear as exaggerated forms of everyday anxieties or as symbolic representations of moral and ethical dilemmas. A serpent-like figure in a dream might signify deception or hidden danger, while a luminous, floating creature could represent guidance, intuition, or insight. By imagining these interactions slowly, the listener is invited to reflect on the symbolism of the night and the lessons embedded within, fostering both relaxation and thoughtful contemplation. Night monsters are often associated with liminal spaces, the threshold between sleep and wakefulness, consciousness and subconsciousness. They move through rooms, dreamscapes, and silent streets, interacting with the human mind in subtle ways. Their presence is often sensed rather than seen, perceived through shifting shadows, soft sounds, or changes in temperature and atmosphere. These subtle cues encourage careful observation and awareness, teaching the listener to pay attention to detail and to interpret experiences with patience. This slow, deliberate narrative rhythm mirrors the gradual unfolding of dreams, creating an immersive and calming storytelling experience. Some night monsters act as guides, helping heroes navigate the uncertain terrain of sleep, vision, and intuition. They may provide cryptic messages, subtle warnings, or glimpses of what is hidden in plain sight. For instance, a glowing figure might lead a dreamer toward a revelation or illuminate a path that was previously unclear. The interaction requires reflection and discernment, emphasizing the importance of intuition and ethical understanding. For the listener, imagining these creatures slowly encourages gentle introspection and meditation, allowing the mind to engage with symbolic meaning while remaining calm and relaxed. The environments inhabited by these monsters are ethereal and ever-shifting. Picture a mist-filled landscape where shadows twist over hills and valleys, or a silent city bathed in moonlight where every flicker of movement could reveal a hidden presence. Dreamscapes can be as vast as the imagination allows, blending familiar elements with surreal, unexpected ones. By imagining these spaces gradually, the listener develops a sense of calm exploration, following the creature's movements with curiosity and reflection rather than tension or fear. The pacing of the narrative mirrors the slow, fluid nature of dreams themselves. Many night monsters are linked to the concept of moral and spiritual insight. By presenting illusions, fears, or challenges, they encourage heroes and listeners alike to confront inner doubts, ethical dilemmas, and unresolved emotions. A dream monster might test a hero's honesty, patience, or courage, rewarding careful attention and thoughtful action. In this way, the creatures are not purely frightening. They are teachers and guides, illuminating the subtleties of human character. The slow, immersive storytelling allows these lessons to unfold naturally, helping the listener absorb insights while experiencing calm and relaxation. The sensory details of night are crucial in these stories. The soft rustle of leaves in a nighttime forest, the distant call of an owl, or the gentle flicker of candlelight creates an ambience where monsters can move subtly without startling. Shadows dance across walls and floors, shapes appear and vanish, and faint sounds hint at hidden presences. These slow, deliberate descriptions encourage the listener to visualize carefully, enhancing immersion and promoting a meditative, reflective state. The creature's movements, soft yet deliberate, harmonize with the rhythm of the night, deepening the calming effect of the narrative. Dream monsters also highlight the interplay between fear and understanding. While their forms may be unsettling, their purpose is often to teach, warn, or guide rather than to harm. Heroes learn that approaching the unknown with patience, insight, and ethical reflection allows them to navigate challenges successfully. Listeners, following these stories slowly, experience similar lessons, understanding that uncertainty and subtle fear can be approached thoughtfully and transformed into insight and wisdom. The narrative fosters a sense of calm curiosity, guiding the imagination gently through shadows and dreamscapes. Finally, monsters of night and dreams remind us of the broader themes of Persian mythology: reflection, moral insight, and the balance between fear and understanding. They inhabit the spaces where consciousness and imagination meet, offering lessons about patience, observation, and ethical awareness. By imagining these creatures slowly, observing their subtle movements, and reflecting on their symbolic significance, the listener is drawn into a calm, meditative engagement with the story. These night monsters, ethereal and elusive, guide the imagination through dreamscapes and quiet shadows, fostering curiosity, reflection, and serenity, perfectly suited to bedtime storytelling. As our journey through Persian mythology continues, we now turn to a realm populated by beings whose sheer size and presence command attention, the giant and humanoid monsters. Unlike serpents of the mountains, ethereal night creatures, or hidden water spirits, these monsters are tangible, massive, and often humanoid in form. Their power lies not only in their strength but in their ability to embody human traits amplified to extraordinary proportions. Imagine standing in a quiet valley at dusk, the wind rustling gently through tall grass, and sensing a shadow stretching across the land, a figure so vast that it blurs the line between reality and legend. These giants and humanoid monsters invite awe and contemplation, blending fear, curiosity, and calm reflection. Giants in Persian mythology are often depicted as protectors or challengers, embodying forces of nature and morality. Some dwell in mountains, forests, or remote plains, their colossal forms blending with the environment. They are not always hostile, their actions are deliberate, reflecting their purpose within the natural and moral order. A hero may encounter a giant guarding a sacred path, requiring patience, respect, and careful observation to pass safely. These encounters emphasize wisdom over brute force, teaching the importance of discernment, ethical awareness, and the ability to recognize strength in measured, purposeful action. For the listener, the story unfolds slowly, allowing the imagination to absorb the giant's size, power, and symbolic significance. The humanoid monsters often exhibit traits that mirror human behavior, magnified to extreme proportions. Some are grotesque, with exaggerated limbs or eyes that seem too large, while others possess an eerie beauty that captures attention and fascination. Their expressions, movements, and decisions reflect moral and ethical principles, offering subtle guidance or challenge to those who encounter them. A hero may face a humanoid creature that tests courage, honesty, or wisdom, with the outcome depending on thoughtful choices rather than aggression. The narrative emphasizes observation and reflection, creating a calm, immersive rhythm that allows the listener to appreciate both the monster's scale and the lessons they embody. These monsters are often tied to natural and cosmic forces. Giants may symbolize mountains, storms, or rivers, their movements echoing the rhythms of the earth itself. Humanoid monsters sometimes represent ethical dilemmas, human fears, or cultural values amplified into formidable forms. By linking physical enormity with symbolic significance, the myths encourage listeners to contemplate the balance between power and responsibility, strength and insight. The slow pacing of the storytelling allows the imagination to dwell on these details, fostering a reflective, almost meditative engagement with the narrative. The environments inhabited by giant and humanoid monsters are vast and dramatic. Imagine expansive plains stretching to the horizon, deep valleys shaded by towering cliffs, or quiet mountain passes where a single shadow can dominate the landscape. The monster's movements, deliberate and awe-inspiring, harmonize with these settings, emphasizing scale and presence. For listeners, the gradual description of terrain and monster alike encourages immersive visualization, where suspense builds slowly and gently, creating a calming yet captivating storytelling experience. Many tales describe heroes interacting with these monsters through wit, courage, or moral clarity rather than direct confrontation. A giant may ask riddles, set tasks, or require demonstrations of patience and ethical judgment before allowing passage. Humanoid monsters often challenge the hero's perception, presenting moral dilemmas or testing the capacity to act wisely under pressure. The gradual unfolding of these challenges mirrors the monster's deliberate pacing, encouraging the listener to consider the importance of reflection, patience, and insight when faced with overwhelming or intimidating circumstances. The sensory details of these myths enhance immersion. Feel the tremor of the ground as a giant steps slowly through a valley, hear the distant echo of deep, resonant voices, and notice the flicker of sunlight across massive, scaled limbs or reflective eyes. Humanoid monsters might move more subtly, their gestures precise and meaningful, yet their presence still commands attention. These carefully paced details invite the listener to visualize each movement, absorb the atmosphere, and reflect on the symbolic lessons embedded in the story. The combination of scale, movement, and meaning creates a slow, hypnotic rhythm that fosters calm engagement. Some giants and humanoid monsters possess intelligence and moral agency that rivals or surpasses that of humans. They are not mindless brutes. They think, judge, and act according to their understanding of justice, balance, and cosmic order. Heroes encountering them must recognize that force alone is insufficient. Success depends on observation, discernment, and ethical reasoning. For listeners, this aspect reinforces the meditative quality of the narrative, emphasizing thoughtful reflection, awareness of moral consequences, and the capacity to navigate challenges with care and wisdom. The narrative of giants and humanoid monsters also highlights contrasts between scale and subtlety, strength and wisdom, fear and respect. A hero may initially feel overwhelmed by the sheer size of a giant but discovers that careful observation, patience, and ethical behavior allow safe passage. Similarly, humanoid monsters may appear intimidating yet respond positively to insight, courage, or humility. These contrasts create a dynamic storytelling rhythm that engages the imagination gently, encouraging curiosity and reflection without alarming the listener. Finally, giant and humanoid monsters remind us of broader themes in Persian mythology: balance, ethical insight, and the importance of understanding forces larger than oneself. By imagining the massive forms, deliberate movements, and symbolic significance of these creatures, the listener experiences awe, reflection, and calm simultaneously. These beings, both formidable and instructive, guide the imagination through landscapes of immense scale and moral complexity, fostering deep engagement, gentle suspense, and contemplative meditation. In this way, the monsters of giant and humanoid form become companions in thought, illustrating the power of patience, insight, and ethical understanding within the rich tapestry of Persian mythology. As our journey nears its end, we enter the tumultuous realm of monsters associated with chaos and destruction. In Persian mythology, these creatures are the embodiment of forces that disrupt, challenge, and transform the world around them. Unlike the measured, deliberate monsters we have encountered in forests, skies, or rivers, chaos monsters move unpredictably, their presence altering landscapes, minds, and destinies. Imagine standing at the edge of a shattered plain, the air thick with the scent of smoke and scorched earth, where jagged stones rise like remnants of a forgotten storm. In the distance, a monstrous figure stirs, its form shifting constantly, reminding us of the delicate balance between order and upheaval. These creatures invite awe and reflection, encouraging listeners to contemplate the nature of chaos while remaining calm and attentive. Monsters of chaos often have forms that defy expectation. Some appear as swirling masses of shadows and fire, their shape constantly changing as they move across land or sky. Others take more humanoid or bestial forms, but even then, their features shift unpredictably: eyes that move independently, limbs that appear and vanish, or voices that echo in multiple directions at once. These mutable forms mirror the essence of chaos itself, unpredictable or inspiring, and yet not entirely without purpose. The narrative unfolds slowly, allowing the listener to follow the creature's movements with curiosity rather than fear, fostering a meditative engagement with the myth. These monsters often test more than physical courage. They challenge perception, ethical reasoning, and the capacity to remain calm amidst disruption. Heroes encountering chaos monsters must navigate shifting terrain, interpret cryptic signs, or resist impulses that might lead to rash decisions. The creatures serve as mirrors, reflecting inner fears, desires, and uncertainties. For the listener, the experience encourages reflection on personal challenges, teaching that careful observation, patience, and moral clarity are essential tools in navigating unpredictability. The pacing of the narrative mirrors the ebb and flow of chaos, sometimes subtle, sometimes intense, but always deliberate in its unfolding. Many myths describe chaos monsters as catalysts of transformation. Their destructive power, though fearsome, often leads to renewal or insight. A forest may burn only to regrow more vibrant and alive. A hero may be tested and emerge wiser and more resilient. In this way, chaos is not purely malevolent. It is part of the natural cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth. Listeners are encouraged to imagine these processes slowly, observing the interplay between destruction and renewal, and reflecting on the broader lessons of change and adaptation. The narrative fosters a sense of calm curiosity, allowing the mind to follow the story without anxiety, even as it explores intense or unsettling imagery. The environments inhabited by chaos monsters are often extreme and dramatic. Picture mountains torn asunder, rivers swollen with sudden floods, or skies darkened by roiling storm clouds. Within these landscapes, monsters move with fluid unpredictability, their actions shaping the world around them. The listener is guided to observe these changes gradually, noticing patterns, shifts in light, and subtle movements that hint at the creature's presence and intent. By pacing the descriptions carefully, the story maintains a calming rhythm while still conveying the power and unpredictability of chaos. Chaos monsters are also associated with moral and cosmic lessons. By challenging heroes with unpredictable forces, they teach adaptability, resilience, and ethical discernment. A hero might face a creature that tests honesty, courage, or patience under extreme circumstances, emphasizing that inner strength and wisdom are more important than brute force. These narratives encourage listeners to consider the balance between control and surrender, action and reflection, chaos and order, fostering a meditative exploration of both myth and personal insight. Visual and sensory details in chaos narratives enhance the immersive experience. Imagine the flicker of fire against jagged rocks, the echo of distant howls across torn valleys, or the shifting shadows that suggest multiple presences moving in unison. Chaos monsters may also create subtle cues, like a sudden change in wind or a ripple through a pool of water, signaling their movement. These carefully paced details encourage the listener to engage actively but calmly, noticing patterns and anticipating outcomes without alarm, fostering a contemplative, immersive experience. Some chaos monsters possess intelligence, acting with purpose even as their form and actions appear unpredictable. They may test heroes not to harm but to reveal strengths, weaknesses, or hidden potential. By observing their subtle patterns, understanding the ethical dimensions of their challenges, and responding with patience and insight, heroes and listeners learn the value of composure, careful observation, and thoughtful action. This encourages a reflective, meditative engagement with the story, allowing awe and calm to coexist. The narrative of chaos and destruction also highlights contrasts between fear and understanding, unpredictability and discernment. The creatures may seem overwhelming at first, yet heroes who approach with observation, patience, and ethical clarity navigate their challenges successfully. Listeners are encouraged to mirror this process mentally, following the slow, deliberate unfolding of chaos, observing shifts, and reflecting on lessons embedded in the myth. This pacing transforms potentially unsettling themes into opportunities for calm reflection and intellectual engagement. Finally, monsters of chaos and destruction remind us of the larger patterns of Persian mythology, the balance between forces, the interplay of destruction and creation, and the lessons embedded within challenge and uncertainty. By imagining these creatures slowly, observing their shifting forms, and reflecting on their symbolic significance, listeners are guided through a meditative exploration of change, resilience, and ethical awareness. Chaos, while disruptive, becomes a teacher, offering insight and reflection in a calm, immersive storytelling rhythm, perfectly suited to bedtime meditation and gentle engagement with the mythological world. As our journey through the vast and varied world of Persian monsters draws to a close, it is time to reflect on the deeper moral, symbolic, and philosophical lessons these creatures offer. From towering giants to subtle night spirits, from fiery divs to elusive water serpents, each monster is more than a mere figure of fear. They are mirrors of human nature, guardians of ethical insight, and guides through the hidden patterns of the world. Imagine yourself in a quiet space, the night gently surrounding you, and consider each monster you have met not just as a story, but as a symbol, a teacher, and a companion on a journey of reflection and understanding. One of the most consistent lessons these myths convey is the balance between fear and respect. Monsters, no matter how terrifying, are rarely purely malevolent. Each embodies forces, natural, moral, or cosmic, that demand acknowledgement and understanding. A mountain serpent teaches patience and observation, a forest guardian emphasizes harmony with nature, and a chaos monster illustrates the inevitability and potential wisdom of disruption. By encountering these creatures slowly, attentively, and thoughtfully, heroes and by extension, listeners, learn that fear is not an end but a guide, urging reflection, caution, and ethical action. This principle applies not only to mythical monsters but to challenges in daily life, making the lessons enduring and universal. Another profound theme is the importance of observation and patience. Across all realms, land, water, fire, air, forest, night, monsters reward careful attention. Heroes often succeed not through force but through noticing subtle cues, the flicker of light, the shift of a shadow, the rhythm of a river, or the sway of branches in the wind. This emphasis on mindfulness encourages listeners to slow their own thoughts, to absorb details gradually, and to understand the environment and situation before acting. The monsters serve as teachers in observation, patience, and discernment, demonstrating that wisdom often arises from attentive, reflective engagement rather than hurried or impulsive action. Ethical reflection and moral clarity are central to the lessons of Persian monsters. Many encounters are tests of character. Honesty, courage, humility, and ethical reasoning determine the hero's success. A humanoid monster may challenge understanding of fairness, a fire creature may demand courage tempered with insight, and night spirits may require honesty and self-awareness. These myths convey that power, knowledge, and courage are most effective when coupled with ethical discernment. Listeners are encouraged to internalize this principle, appreciating that personal growth often arises from navigating moral challenges, much like heroes navigating monsters' trials. Another enduring lesson is the interconnectedness of all things. Mountains, rivers, forests, skies, fire, chaos, and night, all the realms inhabited by monsters, are not separate, isolated domains. Each monster exists within a network of relationships, influencing heroes, environments, and other creatures. Observing these interconnections fosters a sense of harmony, reminding listeners that actions have consequences, and that understanding arises from seeing the whole picture rather than focusing narrowly on a single element. This perspective encourages calm reflection and deepens appreciation for the subtle balance inherent in life and nature. The monsters also embody transformation and resilience. Encounters often challenge heroes to adapt, learn, and grow. Water serpents teach flexibility and awareness, fire creatures demonstrate endurance and courage, and chaos monsters reveal the value of resilience amidst unpredictability. By observing these lessons, listeners can appreciate that challenges, though sometimes intimidating or unsettling, offer opportunities for growth, insight, and personal evolution. The storytelling emphasizes slow, deliberate pacing, allowing these lessons to unfold gently and leaving space for the mind to process and absorb them fully. Imagination and curiosity are also cultivated through these myths. The creatures themselves often defy ordinary perception, moving in ways that stretch the mind's capacity to visualize and understand. By engaging with these stories, listeners practice expanding their awareness, considering possibilities beyond the familiar, and exploring realms both symbolic and literal. This imaginative exercise is calming rather than stressful, as the narrative unfolds deliberately, providing space to wander through mythological landscapes safely and contemplatively. The myths further highlight the balance between the known and the unknown. Mountains, forests, rivers, skies, fire, and shadows all conceal hidden truths. Monsters often dwell in these hidden spaces, revealing lessons only to those who approach with patience, respect, and observation. This teaches an important principle: understanding and wisdom are not always immediate. They emerge gradually, through engagement with the unknown and reflection on experience. Listeners are invited to mirror this process, allowing the mind to explore complexity gently while maintaining calm curiosity. Finally, the overarching lesson of these myths is integration, recognizing the interplay between fear and wisdom, strength and patience, chaos and order. Each monster encountered offers insight into a specific facet of human experience or natural order, but the true understanding emerges when these insights are combined. By reflecting on all the monsters and their domains together, the listener appreciates a holistic perspective on life, morality, and nature. This final synthesis is calming, meditative, and deeply satisfying, creating a sense of closure and completion to the journey. As we conclude, it is helpful to imagine revisiting the monsters slowly in memory, the mountain serpent gliding silently along rocky peaks, the fiery div illuminating a volcanic plain, the forest guardian watching patiently among the trees, the night spirit drifting through shadow and dream. Each one leaves a trace, a lesson, and a gentle reminder of the richness and complexity of the world and the mind. This reflective practice allows listeners to integrate the stories into their own understanding, fostering calm, curiosity, and insight long after the tale has ended. In this way, the terrifying monsters of Persian mythology are not merely figures of fear, they are companions in reflection, guides through moral and natural landscapes, and gentle teachers of patience, observation, and ethical awareness. By encountering them slowly, immersively, and thoughtfully, listeners are invited into a meditative, calming experience that blends awe with serenity, suspense with reflection, and fear with understanding. These stories, while rooted in ancient culture, continue to resonate, offering lessons that are as applicable to the modern mind as they were to the heroes and audiences of old. Through careful imagination, reflective listening, and ethical contemplation, the lessons of Persian monsters guide us toward a deeper understanding of the world, of ourselves, and of the delicate balance between fear, awe, and insight. And as you drift into sleep, let these creatures linger softly at the edges of your imagination, offering calm, curiosity, and gentle reflection, reminding you that even the most terrifying forces hold lessons, guidance, and quiet wisdom. As our journey through the mysterious and captivating world of Persian monsters comes to a close, it is time to allow your mind to drift gently into rest. The tales you have followed, of fire-breathing divs, shadowy night spirits, enormous giants, chaotic forces, and guardians of the forests and waters, have carried you across mountains, skies, rivers, and dreamscapes. Each encounter has been slow, deliberate, and filled with reflection, giving you not only stories of awe and terror but also lessons in patience, courage, and ethical insight. Now, as the last whispers of these myths fade into the quiet, you can feel the calm settling around you, like a soft blanket wrapping the mind and body in warmth and serenity. Imagine yourself lying comfortably, the day's thoughts beginning to slow, your breathing deep and steady. In the distance, the silhouettes of mountains rest under the soft glow of moonlight, rivers flow quietly, and forests hum with the gentle pulse of life. Somewhere, high above, a night spirit glides silently, invisible yet protective, its presence a reminder that even the unseen can bring guidance and calm. Each monster you have imagined so far leaves a subtle trace, a quiet echo in the mind, a lesson folded gently into the rhythm of your thoughts. This is the moment to embrace that calm, to allow imagination and memory to merge, and to feel a sense of completion, closure, and safety. As your mind drifts, envision the creatures once more, one by one, not as threats, but as teachers, guides, and companions. The fire div, with its slow, deliberate movements, reminds you of the power of transformation, courage, and controlled energy. The mountain serpent teaches patience, observation, and respect for the natural order. Forest guardians whisper lessons of harmony, mindfulness, and reflection. Chaos monsters show that even disruption has purpose and that calm awareness can navigate uncertainty. Night spirits invite introspection and self-understanding. Giants and humanoid monsters embody strength, ethical insight, and resilience. Each presence is now softened, peaceful, and fully integrated into the quiet world of imagination, ready to rest alongside you as you drift into sleep. Picture the landscapes slowly dissolving into a soft, gentle haze. Mountains fade into rolling hills, rivers shimmer with the reflection of starlight, and forests whisper in the language of leaves and wind. The creatures, too, take on a serene form. Shadows become soft, flames dim to a warm glow, eyes of beasts soften with calm intelligence. There is no urgency, no threat, only the slow, hypnotic rhythm of storytelling and reflection, guiding the mind toward rest. Your breathing follows this rhythm, deepening with each imagined step through these mythic worlds, each pause between encounters a gentle lull, each shadow a quiet companion. In this final stretch, the lessons of the monsters transform into meditative thoughts. Courage is not loud or aggressive but patient and deliberate. Wisdom is not hurried but discovered through careful attention to subtle signs. Strength is not merely physical but also ethical and reflective. Chaos can be embraced as a teacher rather than feared as a threat. The imagination, guided by these myths, now becomes a landscape of calm, insight, and serenity. As the monsters recede, their lessons remain, settling quietly into the mind like embers glowing softly under a blanket of night. Allow your imagination to linger in this quiet space. Hear the faint rustle of leaves, the gentle flow of rivers, the whisper of wind across mountain peaks, and the soft echoes of creatures that have guided you through this journey. Their presence is subtle, comforting, and protective, a gentle companion through the borderland between wakefulness and sleep. Each detail you notice can slow your thoughts, drawing attention away from the stresses of the day and toward a serene, immersive, reflective state. The mind begins to float in this narrative, carried slowly and safely by the rhythm of imagery, sound, and story. Now, let the boundaries of the mythical world and the real world blur. Mountains, rivers, forests, skies, and night spirits fold into the comforting darkness of your bedroom. Your breathing matches the slow pulse of rivers, the quiet rustle of leaves, the gentle sway of shadows. Imagination drifts, memory relaxes, and the body sinks further into rest. There is no need to awaken these creatures. They have done their work, teaching patience, reflection, courage, and serenity. The final lesson is simply presence, being in the quiet, letting go, and trusting the rhythm of breath, thought, and imagination to guide you safely into sleep. Finally, imagine a gentle closing of the mythical world. The fire dims to a warm, flickering glow, the mountain serpent coils softly into rest, the forest quiets to a gentle murmur, and night spirits settle like soft luminescence around you. The stories fade gradually, leaving only a sense of calm, insight, and peaceful reflection. The imagination, now free from tension, rests fully. Your mind is prepared to drift deeper into sleep, carrying with it the wisdom, lessons, and serene presence of all the monsters you have encountered. As you exhale slowly and fully, feel the comfort of the journey completed, the rhythm of stories guiding your thoughts, and the gentle presence of mythical companions as you drift into rest. The creatures, landscapes, and lessons remain, quiet, protective, and nurturing, ensuring that sleep comes gently, deeply, and peacefully. Let your mind rest now, fully immersed in calm, serenity, and the quiet magic of Persian mythology, ready to carry its lessons into dreams and awaken refreshed, reflective, and balanced.